photographer. I'm sure over the years you would have seen her at an event somewhere taking photos of yourselves as you're on the stage doing whatever you're doing. So within the department, we're the 3 employed individuals, but there are so many individuals who contribute to the team on a volunteer basis, whether they are helping with social media or they're a sound tech or whatever it may be. We've got a really, really diverse and broad team, which is really exciting to see. In terms of what to expect from today, we're going to begin with just the introductions, the devotional. We'll get through that in just a moment. And then we're going to have 2 sessions today. Each of those sessions are 1 hour long. The first is from about 20 past 10. And there's going to be 3 presentations or workshops that you can choose to join. First is with Pastor Sam Davis. I'll introduce him in just a moment to you. And it's about getting started within the department roles and responsibilities. The second presentation is on volunteer reporters and written communication. Volunteer reporters is a new initiative that we're starting in the NEC to drive forwards having people that can go out into the field, visit events and initiatives, and record what's taking place across the conference. So whether you are involved in that initiative or you want to learn about written communication, that'll be a really good breakout room for you to go to. That's with Sandra, who is joining us from the US. And then the third one is Enhancing Church Livestream, and that's with Caleb. That's in the first session this morning from 20 past 10 to 20 past 11. We'll have a break for 10 minutes, and then we'll come back together again for the second session, 11:30 to 12:30. And again, there'll be three sessions to choose from. The first with Pastor Sam Davis is about getting us started within the department, but the second part will have an emphasis on crisis communication, what to do and how to manage a crisis within your church. The second breakout room will be a continuation with Sandra for volunteer reporters and anybody that might be interested in written comms or improving their written communication. And the third is with Bethany, leveling up your church photography, whether you're a pro photographer and you want to network with other photographers, or maybe you're new into it and you don't really know where to get started, then Bethany's presentation will be a good one for you to attend. So that's what you can expect from today. After that second session, there's some stuff from the department that I'll be sharing with you, some updates, things to expect, things that are happening, resources, all that sort of good stuff. We'll have a Q&A session and close by 1 o'clock. So we've got about 3 hours together this morning. So that's what you can expect to see from today's workshop. Well, before we go into it, I want to set the tone with a passage that's first found in the book of 1 Corinthians. It's a passage that many of you may be familiar with. It's in chapter 12, and I'm going to read verses 4 to 6. It says, "Now therefore there are diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit. And there are differences of administrations, but the same Lord. And there are diversities of operations, but it is the same God which worketh in all." The passage found in 1 Corinthians 12 is the passage that speaks to the idea of spiritual gifts that we have within the church. That God gives to each of us at least one talent to use not for our glory, but for His. Not to edify ourselves, but to edify the church. Sometimes the frustration I find, not speaking for anybody else, that when it comes to communications or audiovisual or media, that as long as you're good with computers, you meet the requirement for being in the team. And yet our role is a spiritual role. It's ministry. We have an important function within the body of church, and that God has given us spiritual gifts to help build up the church in this particular area. I love how that there's this sense of diversity and yet unity at the same time. That although there are varying gifts, they're all given by the same Spirit. The one who unites us is the Spirit of God, who gives us that direction, that motivation, that vision as to where we are working towards. And so whether you are a writer, whether you are a sound tech, whether you are a graphic designer, a web developer, whether you help with live stream, whatever it may be within the world of AV and comms, I want you to know that God has given you gifts. And I'm so excited when we see churches and people within churches who are using their gifts for the Lord. There's a sense of when we see the Spirit of God given these gifts, that there is collaboration and not competition. Sometimes we are seeking not to necessarily do the best for the Lord, but we want to be better than it may be our sister church. Or, those guys down there, they don't know what they're doing. And ego plays a part in it, sometimes inadvertently or subconsciously, maybe even. But because we're united by the same God, because we're united under the same mission, our spiritual gifts lead us to collaborate and work together. It's been really encouraging for me to see over the last couple of years the number of occasions where we're willing to collaborate with one another from differing churches, from differing areas on different projects, because we're on the same team. We're absolutely on the same team. Sometimes we kind of get agitated with each other and we forget that we may see things differently at times, but we're on the same team, serving the same God, being led by the Holy Spirit. I pray that in today's workshops, that you'll be blessed by the various presenters. I pray that you'll be invigorated to go back to your local churches, to implement what you've learned, and that we can further collaborate in the NEC and continue to raise the standards and really continue to push our church forwards by what we're trying to achieve in the worlds of media and communication. In our own strength, it may not be possible. We'll continue to flounder like the Israelites maybe did in the wilderness, but with God, all things are possible. Amen. 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 I want to share with you our guest presenters, and then I'm going to pray for us all as we part ways into our various breakout rooms. We have two guests with us, two honored guests. Oftentimes when, as we have guests in our local churches, we like to make sure that they are felt welcome in our churches because, Leeds Central or Northampton Central or Campbell, we're the friendliest church in the North England Conference. But I want to take this one step further. I want Sam and Sandra to know that we're the most friendliest conference within the British Isles, right? Pastor Sam Davis. Pastor, do you want to give us a wave or say good morning to us?
Hello, good morning to you all.
Pastor Davis is our BUC Communications and Media Director. For those of you who were either at Camp Hill yesterday or you were watching their service online, you would have seen him share the message yesterday. Pastor Davis, it's been wonderful to work with him over the last couple of years as our Union Director. He formerly was the SEC Communication and Media Director, and before coming into ministry, he worked in the world of communication outside of the church as well. So he's a lot of years of experience under his belt, and he'll be sharing two presentations today. One about getting you started in your roles, looking at the forms, those who've completed the registration form. You've told us how new you are into the department. There's a lot of you that are new, or maybe you've only been in the role a year, or maybe two. So Sam, Pastor Davis's presentation will be really helpful for you. That's the first one, and the second one is around crisis communication. A lot of our churches have crises, maybe not always, but from time to time. How do we manage those? And so Pastor Davis has run a number of workshops for us as employees on crisis communication, and today he's going to be running one for yourselves as well. So, Pastor Davis, welcome to the NEC. We're glad that you're here.
Thank you very much. And let me say, I did experience the warmth in Camp Hill yesterday.
Amen. That's lovely to hear. That's lovely. The second guest that we have is Sandra, who is joining us all the way from the Southern New England Conference in the US. I met Sandra last year and at a communications conference, and we were sat in this workshop. I shared the story on Friday. A couple of people have already heard this, but forgive me for repeating it, because there are those moments where the Spirit of God is leading. And so we were sat in this workshop, and Sandra mentioned something that they're looking to start in their conference, which was around having these reporters, members who are reporters that are going around the conference. And we had talked about wanting to do this within the NEC. And it was really early days, but no sooner had she mentioned it, my ears pricked up. The presentation finished, the workshop finished, and I bolted to her table to sit next to her and to ask her all about what she's doing in her conference. And so over the last few months, we've been speaking a lot. And it's why we're really excited about this new initiative that we're starting in the NEC that she's looking to start in her conference soon as well. Sandra is a communication specialist. She's worked both within the church and for clients outside of the church. She's written for the General Conference, and she's done so much over the years. She's a great asset to the church, and we're just so grateful that she's joined us for this weekend. She was with us on Friday for a particular workshop, and now she's with us this morning. And so if you're interested in improving your written communication, consider going to her workshop. You'll see that it's a continuation of Friday, but you'll be able to get so much from the presentation anyway. And I'm sure it'll be a blessing to you. Sandra is joining us from the US. She's 5 hours behind. So if at some point we start to see her get a little bit drowsy, I'm sure you'll be forgiving of her more. But I'm really grateful that she's here. Sandra, do you want to give us a wave or say good morning to us?
Good morning, everyone. Happy to be here.
Excellent. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you. Caleb, do you want to give us a wave? I've introduced you, but so everybody can see who you are. And last but not least, Bethany, give us a wave as well, so everybody knows who you are as well. Awesome. So that's the team. That's the workshops that we'll be having together today. We'll give you all the departmental updates, all that good stuff after the 2 workshops. But let's begin with the first one now. I'm going to open up the breakout rooms for you, and you can choose whichever one you want to go to. You can choose whichever you want to go to. All right. I hope that you have a lovely breakout room. At this point, folks, if you want to make your way to whichever room you want to attend, you should be able to choose at this point. And we'll see you back here in the main room later on. God bless everybody.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. How are we doing? How are we doing? It's glad you could all attend today. We'll give everybody a couple more minutes just to make sure everyone has the opportunity to join the rooms. But yeah, how's everyone doing? Give me your thumbs up if everyone's doing good. That's brilliant, that's brilliant, that's brilliant. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Cool, so let me get my presentation ready. Cool, so is everybody able to see this? Yes, brilliant.
Yeah.
Cool. Let me. So if I give another minute and then we can get a start on the presentation. How many people have we got in here? Oh, wow. Wow. Got a lot of people in here today. Okay, let's make a start then. So, today's presentation is we're going to be covering enhancing your church's live stream. Now, the purpose of this presentation, I want to caveat is not to. I'm assuming that most churches do live stream, but what I want to delve into is how you can develop your live stream to better your offering for your local churches. Now, coming out of lockdown, it was something fairly new to a lot of churches, and again, it may be still fairly new to a lot of churches now. Some churches may not do it, but I'm going under the impression that a majority of the churches do live stream. So, what I intend to do today is just provide some tools and give my opinion on and kind of give stuff that I've learned over the past few years and working in media about how you can help your live stream to better offer your church your offering to your local churches. Before I do that, let me make sure I record this
Recording in progress.
Cool. So, yeah. So, introduction. So, as I already stated, the main purpose of this presentation is to kind of, focus on how, as a church, we can enhance our live stream offerings for our members at home and also help develop skills within our team members. So, if I go on to the next slide, a bit about myself. So, as Pastor Joe introduced, I'm Caleb. I am recently employed by the conference back in August as a full-time media and broadcast technician. My local church is Wolverhampton Central. My background is within visuals and cameras, so that's where I started off. And I studied it at sixth form, but then I went to uni to study marketing. And then at a lockdown, obviously, lockdown happened, and then my local church started live streaming. And from there, I've been able to go on and work in the world of production. I'm working in production for 2 years, and then so I get working across the country doing lots of live events. And then back in August, part of the conference's XCOM strategy, I was employed to be a full-time media and broadcast technician. So again, I've been on the church media team for more than 10 years now. So I've been on it from I'm more than seasoned. So again, I hope that I'm able to impart some of the knowledge that I've learned to you guys, and obviously hoping that you guys are able to, gain from this as well. So the first point is, why should churches be looking to enhance their live streams? So I've outlined a couple benefits. I think the first one is wider outreach. I think, again, coming out of lockdown, a lot of churches have struggled to see members come back in person, again, for a variety of different reasons. Maybe people can't commit to, maybe people are still a bit wary. And again, it's about, as local churches and media leaders, how are we able to reach the people that aren't able to make it in person? So it's about reaching beyond the physical congregation to go about fostering community and faith. The second point is enhance engagement. I think, okay, we make live stream as a church, but then it's also about how do we create a more immersive and interactive worship experience?
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a thing of, so for us, it's the thing of like, how do we, okay, we may live stream, but how do we actually intentionally offer a good worship experience? Because again, that's something that we need to be key with, that while we may just be putting a camera on YouTube or on Facebook, showing to the world, we're actually offering a worship experience. So we want to be very intentional about how we offer that service out to people so that the people at home can get the same experience as they do in church. And then again, accessibility for all. It's about making it accessible for people who can't attend in person due to distance, health, or other reasons. It's also a tool. I think it's enhancing our church life. It also allows us a tool bridging the physical and the virtual congregation together, because a lot of times it may seem as one is separate from the other, and I think that's where a lot of times we go wrong. So it's about enabling seamless communication and spiritual connection so that the people, so again, it's the live audience and the physical live stream audience and the physical audience. I've not just seen as two separate audiences, but they are seen as the whole church congregation. And then obviously, as I said, meeting challenges of COVID, and then obviously reach a broader demographic. Now, we're moving to a very much more digital society. Again, a lot of people are a lot more tech savvy. So it's about, again, reaching out to those people who are more technically savvy. And it's also about being able to offer something that, because again, we have to understand that we are now in a day and age where, again, what worked many years ago may not work the same today. So it's about implementing those things so we're able to future-proof the ministry that we do and also connect with that younger generation. So what are the key components of a good live stream? So I believe there's three key components. It's video quality, audio quality, and engagement features. I think those three bundle together and make a very good live stream experience. And one is not more important than the other. They're all working tandem with each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down some of the benefits as to why these things are so important to what we do. So video quality.
Caleb, I'm sorry to disturb you. Are your slides moving?
Yes, can you not see them?
Mine, unless it's my particular device, but mine aren't moving.
I was gonna say the same thing as well.
Okay, let's go back. Let's go back. Apologies regarding that. Okay, let's start that again. Give me a second, guys. Let me. Are you able to see my screen now, or is it still saying it won't share? Please.
Currently black.
A black screen.
Yeah,
The
mine's
black-
empty as well.
Okay, let's try another way. Apologies about this. Let me download it instead. How about now?
Yep, perfect.
Yep, that's perfect.
About it. Yep.
Really. So apologies about that. So if I go back to the start of my presentation. So yeah, so as I was saying, so as I went through earlier, so the benefits of enhancing our church's live stream. So it's again wider outreach, reaching beyond the physical congregation to a global audience and fostering community and faith, enhanced engagement, creating a more immersive experience, accessibility, ensuring that it's accessible to all. Use it as a tool to bridge between the physical and the virtual congregation. Again, meeting the challenges head on, addressing COVID, demonstrating resilience and adaptability through technology, and then attracting a younger techie audience, and then also connecting with the next generation and future-proofing the ministry that we offer. So, as I stated, three components of a good live stream, in my opinion, are video quality, audio quality, and enhanced engagement features. So, as I started explaining, for video quality, I believe that there are four kind of areas that I want to look over. So, enhanced engagement. So, high quality video that keeps viewers engaged and attentive. I think one thing that, again, coming from a background in working in media production and film, is that I know, again, how something looks tends to keep people engaged. And a lot of times is that if people don't see what something, they say, oh, maybe the video quality isn't as good as it should be, then a lot of time people tend to not pay attention to what's going on screen, because again, they are distracted of what's being seen on screen, assuming there's things going on. So it means that they're not really taking in the offering that you are showcasing them. Because again, your content may be good, but because they aren't able to, the visually doesn't look as pleasing to the eye, it tends to put people on. And I think that then also leads on to professionalism. I think having good video quality shows a level of professionalism in what we do. And I think it goes back to a thing of like, when we do the things that we do, we have to remember that we apply the same amount of professionalism to what we do as we would to do our job. And I think, again, if people can see that we are taking what we do seriously and not just say, oh, because we can live stream, we're going to live stream, we actually, okay, cool. Here's how we're going to do, what standard of quality do we want to offer. Again, it builds that trust with the audience, because then as an audience, they can say, okay, these guys take what they do seriously, they take their craft seriously, and they take their ministry seriously. I mean, it's also about accessibility. Again, it makes it more clear, people who may not come to the church, so again, the people that you're trying to reach to outside of the local church congregation, you see that, okay, cool, like, I like this audience, because again, they can kind of see, oh, these guys are keeping up with the modern age, and it allows our offering to be more wider and diverse in what we're doing. And then finally, it's competitive advantage. Now, the reason I put competitive advantage is this, not necessarily within churches in our own denomination, is that we're having to also dealing with people from different faith backgrounds, people out there. And it's about the digital space is very crowded. And as a church, we need to find ways to be able to stand out. So, because again, at the end of the day, there are so many things that are trying to capture people's attention. And with the way with new advancing technology such as AI and or various other technological advancements, it's struggling to, it means that we're having to fight with so many things to keep the attention of people. So I think those four things are very key when it comes to enhancing the quality of our live streams. Audio quality. Now, the significance of audio quality, I think, is very clear. There's a saying that I was taught at school, and it's that people hear first before they see. Now, as much as video quality plays a part, I think audio quality is also extremely key, because sometimes people can put up with something not being as visually as good if it sounds clear and crisp. And I think as a media department, audio needs to be something that we take very seriously as what we do, because I think if we can keep people attended by what they're listening, again, a lot of times the messages that we're trying to offer. So having audio that is clear and concise allows the messages to be heard and felt, and it also happens to foster a sense of presence for both the online and in-person congregation. Now, as I said, when factoring in again, like, when you're live streaming online, it's a thing of like, okay, cool. The people, you may think, okay, in-house, you're trying to sort everything out, but it's also, you got to factor in that, okay, you also got to remember the people at home are also watching, and they also want to feel the same experience that they're having in church, because in church, it may be a great experience, but because online, the audio quality isn't where it needs to be, it makes it very difficult for people to kind of pay attention, and then they end up, their attention span tends to go, and then they'll go somewhere else to find what they're looking for. Having engagement features. I think engagement is extremely key. I think, as I kind of stated earlier, we may just live stream, but it's like, how do we keep our audience engaged? How do we foster connection and community building? How do we increase participation? How do we enhance our communication? How do we get feedback and insights? And I think those sort of things allow us to be able to, again, cater to the needs of the online audience, because again, they may have things that they may be going through, they may have needs that they want. And it's about ensuring that we put things in place to allow the audience online to be able to to get the blessing and get the learning and the understanding that they are seeking for online. Because again, if we increase these engagement features, it helps facilitate outreach, it enhances spiritual growth, and it allows us to be adaptable and flexible within what we're doing and saying. And I think when we do that, I think we're able to really hone in on how we work as a department, because I think a lot of the time, we're just seen as the guys that come on a Sabbath every single week, pull up a fader, pull down a fader, press next on the slide. But really, we can be so much more than that. And I think if we are able to hone in on those things, I think we're able to really drive forward in what we're doing. So I'm gonna go into some practical tools and look at some of the things that I believe can really help you guys. And again, this is just some things that what I want to do at the end as well is take time to answer some of your guys' questions. Because again, I think I'm going through my presentation fairly fast, but I want to take time to answer some of the questions that you may have, and also just get to know kind of where you guys are at when it comes to live streaming, and maybe, and again, make it an open forum discussion where we can discuss between ourselves how maybe things that you guys have learned that you could pass on to other members. So first thing is cameras. So as I said, with video quality, it's also about the type of equipment that we use. So a lot of the time people say, okay, I don't know what camera to buy, I don't know where to begin. Now, these are just some examples. Because again, I could tell you, go get a webcam, but the webcam isn't really gonna, a webcam is good, but is that really going to enhance your offering online? So what I've done is put some recommendations of some cameras that I personally used and interacted with. And again, these are ranging, they're fairly different price points. And I understand that, some things may be more expensive than others, and then some may be more. And I think it's a thing of like, but these are just some cameras that I personally wear and that I would recommend that you as a church invest in and really invest. Because again, I want you to see these things. Don't think, okay, this is expensive. Think of it as an investment. Investing in your ministry, investing in your craft as a department. So the first one is a PTZ camera. A PTZ camera is a point, tilt, and zoom. That's what it stands for, PTZ. And these are singular cameras that can be remote controlled over via Ethernet or via a network. These are very good for churches that may not have the manpower to be able to have, again, a full multi-cam production, but still want to have that same immersive offer that same immersive experience. So the two that I recommend are PTZ Optics. PTZ Optics are a great brand. They are based in America, but obviously they ship worldwide, and they have a different range that comes. So you have 12 times zoom, 30 times zoom, and these can be, again, you can mount these pretty much anywhere within your church. Because again, it's also your church lacks space. It also allows you to place these cameras in place that may not be distracted to the eye. Because again, I know sometimes people may be camera shy. So having a PTZ that allows you to place these cameras, maybe you want to put it on the ceiling or maybe put it on the side wall, so that it's out of the way and it's not distracting the congregation in church congregation and what's going on. So the PTZ obviously is a great one. If you're looking for something slightly more cheaper, the Ada Imaging is a fairly small camera, not too big, not too small, but it's a fairly small camera, but it offers great image quality. And it's fairly inexpensive. And again, similar to the PTZ, you can mount these maybe in a far corner of the wall. It doesn't necessarily have the same capability as your pan, tilt, and zoom, but it still offers the same immersive experience of a good image quality. Now, if you're looking for more traditional camera routes, you can go for the Canon XA11. And the Canon XA11 is a camcorder that has a built-in XLR. So again, if you want to feed your audio from the cameras or into your cameras, you can do that. But it's and it has a built-in zoom. So this is a great camcorder if you're looking for something. The Canon M50 is a great DSLR. If I can I have one right in front of me now. If you guys can see it. Give me 2 seconds. Can you guys see this at all?
I think you have to stop sharing your screen so that we can see it.
So, yeah. See where my camera is. So, yeah. So this is the Canon M50. Support small DSLR camera. Again, it takes micro HDMI out. So again, it allows you to plug into any switch that you may have. But this is a great budget-friendly DSLR if you're looking to go for the more traditional camera route. And again, this offers the same image quality good image quality depending on the lens that you get. But again, if you're looking for something that's a DSLR traditional camera that's fairly inexpensive, this is a good option. When I say fairly inexpensive, in comparison to your traditional cameras, but this is a fairly good piece of equipment. With this as well, something that we utilize at my church is that we're able to use this to get over content as well, which I think is something as a department for your live streams you should also be looking to do. So we're able to utilize this camera during the service to be able to use throughout content, maybe on to use throughout the week. So it's a very good nifty piece of gear to be able to take around, and be able to utilize in various different ways, even if you just don't want to live stream. So it's a great piece of equipment to do that. So yeah, if I go back to sharing my screen again. Now again, then finally is the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. At the conference, this is what we use Blackmagic products and Blackmagic infrastructure. I know a lot of churches are investing in Blackmagic infrastructure products. So again, the likes of the ATEM, various different things. Again, this is more on if you're trying to go for the extra mile and obviously go for the extra image quality and you got the budget to play with, the Blackmagic cameras are a very good affordable price within that price range to be able to go for from an equipment standpoint. I want to caveat with something that's very important. Your lens choice is very key when purchasing these cameras because the camera is just a camera body, but also the type of lens that you use also plays a factor. So when doing your research, because again, I could give examples, but again, it's very much dependent on what your church requires and what your needs, and that's again, take your time to research because the lens is so important. Because a lot of time people think, oh yeah, I've got a nice camera body, but you haven't got the lens to factor that in with. And having a good lens enhances the image quality of what you're doing. So again, with the Blackmagic cameras, again, we use a Panasonic 30-100 rated lens, has a great depth of field on there, allows you to, blur out the background, and it provides a great image quality. So just take the time to research if you're looking to purchase a camera, especially if you're purchasing a DSLR, because again, with the PTZ cameras, you don't need to worry about that because it has it all built in. But if you're looking to purchase a more traditional DSLR camera, film camera, some camcorders that allow detachable lenses, take the time to research. I think it's very key with what you're doing. So take the time to research because again, that will impact you in the long run. Because if you can take the time to research and invest now, it will save you 2-3 years down the line.
What's the criteria for selecting a lens? Is it just maximum aperture? Because
It
that would
depends.
impact depth of field, for example.
I think it depends on what you're looking for, really. I think, again, if you're looking for something that has you want like a nice blur background or like depth of field, a lot of bokeh, but you're looking for something that has a low aperture. So like, again, something that's like below 3.5, like, so like the 30-100 lens that I have on my personal Blackmagic at my church that has an f-stop of 2.8. So again, it's just depending on what you're looking for and also zoom capability. So again, if you only have the budget to be able to purchase one camera, you want to be able to look for something that has a long focal that is able to go super wide and also go super tight. So those are kind of things you factor in. Again, when lenses can get the more expensive, you want something that has that both of them, they start to get more expensive. So it just really just depends on what you're looking for and what your church requires. Because again, without knowing and going looking inside and churches, it makes it very difficult to look into that. So yeah.
I find it easier for a church that's starting out to get a PTZ camera.
Yeah, definitely.
Then you don't have to deal with all the
Exactly.
the other requirements that a DSLR will have to deal with. And DSLR cameras tend to work out more expensive when you add all the other stuff to it than just getting a PTZ and hooking and putting it up on a wall.
Yeah, so that's fine. So yeah, but as I said, I recommend especially if you're starting out, look for the PTZ cameras. I think it's a great starting point. But again, if you're looking to enhance that, you already have cameras in place and you're looking to kind of level that up, head towards the pocket pocket and the Blackmagic pocket cameras was a great brand to look into. So yeah, so video switches. So again, I'd just say maybe you've already started out and you're looking for oh, I see a hand. I see a hand. I see a hand. Del, you wanna yeah? Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. It's something that I'm going. You kind of got one of my points I'm going to talk about later, but it's fine. It's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. Dr. Sophia, I see your hands up.
Yes, thank you. I just like to comment on something that Enroy said and something that Dell said. So with the PTZ cameras, what I found was we wanted to install those, but because it wasn't our church, we couldn't because you'd have to get. So that's a consideration for those people who are renting churches. You can't install because you'd be installing something, without, if you don't have permission for that. And the second thing that Dell said, so we have a Blackmagic, and we had before that when we just started, we got a Sony. And then when we got the Blackmagic 4K, because that is a better picture quality, we found that when we tried to mix it, it was obvious. So we had to just stop because when we switched, the picture, it was when you play back, it was just obvious that the second picture, the image was from a different camera, an inferior camera. So that's another consideration about mixing cameras. So we've had to take the decision to just wait until we have enough money to have the same kind of camera, so it doesnn't give a different look to our live stream. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's something that very much we should take it into consideration. I think take your time when you're investing in your equipment. I think a lot of the times we say, oh well, we may want 2 cameras, but sometimes it's better to start like quality over quantity is something I say a lot. Quality over quantity, because what your big as Dr. Sophia said, she said that, and you start to mix cameras, you don't get that same image quality across the board. So it's about keeping that level of consistency with what you're offering, because again, it comes back to about professionalism and being able to show that, okay, we take our craft seriously. So again, I know that may not be difficult. Again, certain clients may not be able to do that, but it's a thing of she was trying to say, like, maybe we say buy the 1 camera, save up, and then when we got the budget, let's invest in it. And it's taking that over time. So once you start building that up, it's that same consistent quality that you're doing across the board. Del, you have your hand up as well? Oh, no, it's fine. That's fine. That's fine. No problem. As I said, yeah, some great points there, though. Can, anyway, can I go to Charles first and I'll come to you, Engage? So, Charles, I see your hands up. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Right. Sorry. The points that have been raised are very good, but I'm just looking at it from as someone who's been in the audiovisual department for going over 10 years, and where my concern is, I think some of the points mentioned is, I think maybe for more realistic perspective, we would have to talk about maybe the streaming speed, because not everyone has got the same broadband speed. Some people are rural based, so they're not exactly located very close. So, for example, if you're broadcasting 4K, can you, for example, what's the minimum bandwidth you're going to be looking at with regards to broadband? And also the other thing I was going to mention with regards to phones is that, for example, if your Wi-Fi connection, if your church is as large as, for example, our church, sometimes the Wi-Fi doesn't reach the router that you're using for you to be able to do that. And if you want, for example, a close-up, and then the other thing is if somebody's going to be moving, I think you need extra technology. For example, you call a dimmer or something that maintains the screen steady, doesn't move around when you are watching, stuff like that. So maybe need clarification on exactly what the setup would. I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay. I probably will be able to answer the question now because I think it's without looking at where your area is based and stuff like that, it's very difficult to answer the question. But what I can do is that if I'll after the meeting's done, I can get your email and then we can have a conversation where I can help you with that in more detail. If I'm just because of time, because we're coming to 11 o'clock, so 20 minutes left, I'm just gonna continue on with the presentation. And again, at the end, which if we have time for some more questions, we can go through that. So as kind of spoke about earlier in terms of image quality, and the cameras that we're using, again, maybe you're looking to invest the video switcher. So now maybe, okay, currently you may be just using a single camera, but you aren't able to show any presentations or graphics on screens. Maybe you look to invest in a video switcher. A video switcher is basically a device that allows you to take various different inputs, take camera inputs, image inputs into its device, and then you send said program feed out into whatever streaming device you're using, and it allows you to send, and that's what it gets sent for the world to see. And this allows you to switch in between. So again, if you have multiple cameras, this is what you'll use to switch between. Now, there's very different models, but these are some of the ones that I recommend if you're looking to invest in a video switcher to maybe that you're trying to go from the one camera setup to a 2 camera setup. So the A10 Mini Pro, the A10, this is a Blackmagic product. I highly recommend it. It has highly recommended product. Fairly inexpensive as well. And it's a great, if you're just starting out, you don't know what a video switcher is, and just something, and you know something that's overbearing. The A10 Mini Pro is a great device. It takes four inputs and has one program out, and then also allows you to take audio into the camera, because that's maybe something else that you may not be doing. Maybe you're using a separate device to take audio from, and this is and so again, this has it all built in. So rather than having to use one device for audio and another device for cameras, this has all in one device that sends everything into there and sends it all out. Again, the Mini Extreme ISO is a larger version of the Mini Pro. The reason why I recommend the ISO version, this has 8 inputs, but it also allows you to record each individual input locally. So this could be good if you're trying to repurpose your content. So again, maybe there's a certain section of the sermon that you wanted to go through, and you say, "Oh, this is really good, but I don't have nowhere to be stored." The ISO, with the Extreme ISO, it allows you to record those programs internally, and then if you want to do any post-production on it to then repurpose those content, it allows you to do that rather than maybe having to record locally to a camera. So it's a great way to be able to do everything in-house. You have to worry about different hard drives. So again, it's a great way to try to keep everything in-house. And also have the flexibility to be able to record locally and have that 8 camera input. Again, has the same features as the Mini Pro, just has the expanded quality of being able to record locally. So yeah, the Fieldworld Live Pro L1 multi-camera. So this is Fieldworld program that this takes 4 camera inputs. Again, similar to the A10 Mini Pro, and more kind of, if you don't have the budget to stretch for A10 Mini Pro, this is a fairly inexpensive option. Very good, again, similar to the A10 Mini Pro in principle. And Elgato Stream Deck. So this one is very different. So with the Stream Deck, say for example, if you have a hardware switcher. So rather than, while the first 3 are maybe hardware switcher where you can take it portable, you maybe have a built-in one like the A10 Production Studio or the Television Studio HD, which is a built-in rack version. So maybe you can't afford to get a hardware switcher itself. And Elgato Stream Deck is a very good device to be able to do video switching on. And with the Elgato Stream Deck, it allows you to program inputs on there. And again, rather than you having to buy a big hardware switcher, you can buy this small device that allows you to switch between the cameras. And it also has expanded capability, because again, if you use software like Pro Presenter and very different, this is an all-in-one device that allows you to program these different buttons to do different functionalities. And I think it's a great way to be able to do, is trying to do video switching from there. Then the final one I'll recommend is a YOLO Box Pro. The YOLO Box Pro is a all-in-one touchscreen device, and it has its own internet, has its own. So again, it's for people that may not be able to, have maybe in a rural place. It has its own built-in internet that allows you to stream, and again, it takes in camera inputs and video switch, and it allows you to video screen via using a touch screen. So again, maybe you are struggling for some. Again, internet isn't somewhere strong that your place where you don't have strong internet. You may be somewhere rural, you're on the go. The YOLO Box Pro is a very good device for that. And I think, again, fairly, I can't remember the price off the top of my head, but it's, again, great little devices. You're looking for something that's portable, small, doesn't take up too much space, and you can take on a go. Again, if you are church that, again, you're renting a building, so you can't keep your equipment there. So camera angles. So as mentioned earlier about Dell mentioned about sometimes you might want to keep your camera on the wide. This is made having different camera angles allows you to immerse the offering that you have, because again, if you're watching at home, you don't want to be seeing a standard wide shot for the whole service. So again, being able to understand different camera shots and different camera angles allows you to enhance your live stream offering. So again, maybe example, you got a wide shot. Is again your standard view stage. You got your full body shot, which is again establishing shot to help the person of interest, and it may include one more the person. So again, maybe it's praise and worship is happening. So again, having a full shot that allows you to capture the whole praise team. Then you have your mid shot. So again, tend to be from the waist up, and usually upper body. So then again, this is maybe when somebody's presenting from the front, and again when they're speaking. So again, it's not too close in the audience face, but again, it's still close enough that people are able to establish, okay, this person's talking to you. Then you have your medium close up, which is kind of more, again, chest up again, which is a lot more tighter, and then you got your close ups. So again, these are just some of the many different camera angles. Because again, you start talking about panning and tilting up and down, but like think about the camera angles that you're using. Could again, the different camera angles offer different perspective. Could again, maybe this preacher's getting to an important point that he's doing his appeal. And you want to probably get like a mid shot or a close-up shot for him speaking to again emphasize his point and obviously and allow to establish the final point that he's making. So be intentional about the stuff that your camera angles that you're using moving forward. So again, this is just a visual representation of what these camera angles may look like. So again, you got an extreme close-up, which is all the way in, close-up, which is mainly a headshot. And then you got your medium close-up, which is medium chest up. Then you got your mid shot, which is waist up. Cowboy shot or full body shot is what they like to call it, or medium full, and then your full shot. So audio. So when it comes to audio, I think one of the things I would recommend churches do if they have the capability to do this is to create a dedicated broadcast feed. So what a dedicated broadcast feed allows to do is allow high quality audio and audio consistency, reliability, and again back to that professional production. Now, what you may be currently doing at the moment is maybe you're just taking your main left and right feed that you use for your in-house church, for use in-house in the congregation, and then just giving that for the live stream as well. If you have the capability to do that, then try and find a way to be able to take a dedicated broadcast feed to your live stream audience. It just allows you to be able to really hone in on that live stream experience for the viewers at home. So that again, you're taking into consideration because what may sound okay in the congregation may not also sound great within on the live stream. So again, taking into consideration, taking the time to again embrace that full live stream experience. So I'll give an example of how this works out in practicality. Just out of curiosity, if anyone could put down who has an X32 at their local churches. If you could just do by the raising of your hand, just say yes. See one, see a couple, yep. So quite a few you have an X30. Quite a few you have an X32. Yep. Okay. So I'll use this example with an X32. Again, it's maybe different to wherever mixer you're using. Again, if that's something that you may need help with, again, we can have a conversation later. Email me and we can talk about that after. But I'll use the example of the X32. So the X32 allows you has 12 outputs. Now, depending on what you're using your outputs for, if maybe say you have an output or 2, 3, you could then use that as your dedicated broadcast feed. So how it would work is that, say, for example, if you use bus number 1, is that, okay, I'm not using that for anything. If you go into your routing section on your X32 desk, you see that you can route output 1, mix bus 1, and set it to post fader. What that allows you then from there, you click send on faders at the top, press select on the mix bus 1 channel, press send on faders. This then allows you to send a separate feed that's independent of what's going on in-house to the live stream audience. And then from the output at the back of your desk, whatever you use XLRs into whatever you're sending your audio to, or XLR to jacks, you then take those feeds out from the Mixbus channel into your audio desk, and then again it allows you to independently send a stream audio feed that is separate from in-house, and it allows you to again. So again, if say say for example the drums are too loud in the mix, if you have drums at your church, or the keyboards maybe too quiet, right? But it allows you to independently control that, so that again it doesn't affect what's going on in-house in the congregation, and it also allows the people in the audience to have that same holistic experience. Another great way to enhance your live stream is ambience mics. I'm a big advocate for ambient mics. I think ambient mics are very, very important because I think it allows the people at home to hear what's going on inside the church, not just on the mics, but also hear the congregation. It creates that sense of inclusivity. I have a friend that works in a church in America, and they have one of the things that he said to me was that the reason they use the ambient mics is, again, it allows, again, say for example, the congregation is singing the chorus and the praise team are singing the congregation singing by themselves. It allows the congregation at home to be able to say, oh yeah, and give that whole sonic experience that they may not get. Because again, if you're just hearing the praise team singers or the band or just a sermon by itself. You don't get to really engage, don't have that same engagement that you may do. And again, I think it offers a great quality worship experience overall. And again, ambience mics can be, you could just use a standard wide mic. For example, if you aren't able to get like dedicated, they're called condenser mics. So again, so you could just use a standard ambient mic, and again, that's still, again, it may not be as well, but it still offers that something to the audience at home. And when that's balancing the overall mix of what you're doing, I think it creates a great experience for the viewers at home. And then engagement, I think to kind of round off, I wanted to focus on engagement. Now, again, as I said at the start of the presentation, a lot of time we may just press start on a live stream and then we just leave it at that. Maybe just just check on up and make sure it's all okay. But I think as the media, I feel like we and AV leaders, I think we need to pay more attention to how we engage with our online audience at home. So again, if you're streaming on some platforms like YouTube Live, Facebook Live, it allows you to, they offer real-time chat and comment section. So again, having someone that's dedicated to typing in the chat, answering questions, engage with people again, so that the people at home don't feel like they're watching them by themselves. That okay, yeah, I'm actually paying attention to what's going on at home. These guys are actually listening to what we're saying. Again, another example is interacting live polls and surveys within your services. So again, maybe you in the YouTube chat you send a link to the presentation, say, what's your opinion on X, Y, and topic? Or okay, maybe you're doing a Sabbath school discussion because again, maybe they can't join in class, but again, maybe you probably say, what do you think of that question? So again, just giving people options to be able to engage and again, be able to feel that they're part of the overall service. Something that that you could do as well is also create virtual fellowship rooms after. So again, maybe your service is done if you use a platform like Zoom, even if it's just for half an hour. Again, create a virtual space where people can come together and talk about how the service went, what their opinions on it was here, discuss kind of what the thought of the sermon, and just have a opportunity just to be able to discuss something after the service is done. So again, kind of that aftercare, as I like to call it. What are we doing as media leaders as the aftercare? Because once Sabbath is done, we should be, are we just switch off the system and going home? It's about, no, let's take the time to be able to engage with the audience at home and offer something and offer some offerings for them. Again, that continuing on, maybe having a dedicated online offering. So I know our local church, some churches are starting to implement that, having their own dedicated online Sabbath school. So maybe that's just one person sitting at home, doing it in a separate venue, and we won't bring them in virtually, and they do online Sabbath school online for the people online. Because again, if a lot of churches tend to have classes, it means that visually engaging is not good to put people watching at home, and they can't really hear what's going on because they're having group discussions. So again, having an online Sabbath school is a way to be able to enhance your church offering, because again, you're giving that time and paying attention. Again, you're giving them the opportunity to have their say and be able to discuss what's going on. Because again, people at home, Monday to Friday, they may not be able to come to church on the Sabbath, and they may want to talk about their lesson study, and they don't have the opportunity to do so. This is a great way as media leaders and AV leaders that we can do that. Again, dedicated announcement section. Maybe again, sometimes your service is running over. Maybe you pre-record your announcements. So maybe it's like on a Friday evening, you could on a phone just pre-record your announcements. And so again, that the online ensure that they're also kept up to date with what's going on at the local church. Use of graphical content. I'll show some examples of that in a bit. But again, what sort of graphical content are you using? So again, paying attention to the type of posts that are you making posts. So again, when it's time for offering, again, how can people at home participate in offering are lower first on the screen. So again, maybe currently you may be having to put the slide on the screen, or you're not able to do that at all. Maybe it's again trying to find ways to be able to show these stuff on the screen so people can then join in at home, and maybe example in praise of worship, or they want to see the Bible text on the screen. Maybe you have a virtual host 15 minutes before your service start. Again, allowing somebody to talk to the audience just before you go live. These are just some examples of many things that we could go through. But again, this is maybe where, depending on where you are in your live stream journey, this is maybe some of the things you can maybe start implementing into it. Again, the live streaming software that you use as well. So again, these are just some examples of what you use. Most people I know use OBS Studio. You got stuff like XLitter Broadcast, Wirecast, vMix. vMix is a great software. The only downside of that is it's Windows only, but vMix is a great software. I personally use that myself, and it's a great software to be able to, because it has everything integrated in there. It allows you to do custom lower thirds. Because again, maybe you don't have the piece of equipment to be able to do lower thirds. You can create your custom lower thirds within vMix itself. Again, and platforms like Restream, which is a software-based one. So again, start looking into how you can implement these different pieces of software into your life. Because again, it allows you to expand what you can offer offer on the live stream for your audiences. So examples are some good live streams, and these aren't necessarily good examples of live streams, just good examples of applications that are being done in there. So Oakwood University Church, I love watching them on the Sabbath. And they example of doing a online Sabbath school is that they do their Reset online Sabbath school, where they have a dedicated studio space. Now again, that may not be possible with most churches, but again, even if you could just do it from your home, again, we just bring it remotely over the phone, you do it in your office or somewhere in your house. Again, offering that online Sabbath school experience to those at home, and again, implementing graphics, QR codes, again, news bulletins or the bulletins so people can follow the service at home. And then lower thirds as well. So visit Red Rocks Church in America, again, implementing lower thirds into their live streams. If I go again, and then again, Milton Keynes Church then down in the SEC, again, for the offering, still got the lower third, but again, they have the graphics on screen to be able to showcase, okay, people want to pay from home, they can pay from home. And these are just some examples from camp meeting that at a department that we did. So we had to implement the BSL translator within our live stream. So what we did was we created a overlay that allowed us to put the image on one side and the BSL translator on the other side. Again, this is more if you have the capability to do that, and again, not every church is going to able to do that, but I just wanted to show you examples of how you can read how these sort of things can really enhance the offering that we can do. Because again, custom lower fares, again, information on the screen, the logo for the conference, those sort of things that allow us to enhance our offering for the wider audience. I want to kind of round out with these 3 points: accessibility, inclusivity, engagement and outreach, and adaptability to change. I think those are the key takeaways I want you to take away from here. Access to the creativity, engagement and outreach, and adaptability to the changing times. I think those 3 key takeaways, I think if you could take these away from the presentation today, I think will allow you to really enhance your live stream offerings to your local church members. And finally, this media is a ministry, not just a service. Pastor Joel kind of emphasized that at the start. We as departments, as AV leaders, we are a ministry. And I really want us to remember that when we could go on to do the work that we do. So the same way that personal ministries will take the time to put in effort into what they're doing, let's as AV leaders do the same. So thank you. And then if you have any questions, I see 2 hands. So Emma, I know your hand's been up for a while, so I'll go to you, and then I'll go to James. James,
Oh, yes, Caleb. Sorry. Long wait there. I like to just go over 3 things of what being said early on. I understand that the doctor made a comment about PTZ being hanging up on the wall. They can go on stands.
Yeah.
The matter of the different quality of the cameras, 4K and such like, I was under the impression that the A10 Mini has a scaler. So could it be that those 2 speakers were referring to the higher Black Magic devices? I don't know, but I know that it's HD. All the A10 Mini equipments all scale out, because I've got 3 different cameras and they're all going out at HD because of the scalers integrated into the A10. The other point too is that the Stream Deck is a control service, not exactly a video switcher.
It has the capability to use.
Yeah. And the last thing, my church, as well as a few other smaller churches, can't afford an X32, and it's not so much because of money, but because of space. We're currently using an XR18, which is more like a shoebox, and I know it's got 6 outputs instead of the 12 that the X32 has, but we manage, and that's a solution for a small church to consider. Thanks, Caleb.
Exactly.
Great presentation.
And just to kind of tag on to the XA again, you have the ability to do outputs as well. So again, you can still do the dedicated broadcast stream with the XA exam as an example, because again, same ecosystem, same family. So yeah, just for a caveat on that. James, I saw your hands up. Yeah.
Hello, yes. Thanks for the presentation. It's been really good. It's mainly on content that I want to touch on. Obviously, a lot of us are busy in the week. We try our best to implement equipment, run obviously the Sabbath from the church. It's very hard to get people to create content. Is the stuff in the conference? Is there videos, content that we can use?
Absolutely. So, Pastor Joe will kind of tally on with some more information regarding that in the last presentation, but I will kind of say that there is stuff in place to be able to help the conference with that. But Pastor Joe will give you some more information regarding that in the last presentation.
Right. That's great. Thanks very much.
No problem. Edmund.
Hi, Caleb. I have two questions. The first is about the GDPR rules and how you go about consenting people for that, because I realize my church doesn't really do that yet, and I want to get to recording the congregation as well, and I'm kind of worried that I'd have to get everyone to fill out forms and have posters everywhere to make everyone aware.
Okay. I know Pastor Jordan here. Pastor Joe, could you kind of because you know a bit more about that than I do. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. No problem. Good morning, everybody. Ed, great question. GDPR. Absolutely. So there's a couple of things to consider. You've got to make give general awareness to the public that this has taken place, and then you need additional requirements or additional permissions from vulnerable individuals, vulnerable adults or children, right? So there's two layers to it. The first layer is that your church is considered a public space where anybody can come into it, right? If we are live streaming or if we're just taking photos, we have to ensure and take reasonable steps to inform people that we are streaming or taking photos. What that can look like is an announcement at the beginning of your service. You can put posters in your church in the appropriate places. Your greeters at the entrance can inform people, members of the public, as they're coming into the place, etc. So there's different ways of doing this. And what is good practice is to have designated areas within your church that are set aside where you won't be streaming, you won't be taking any videos or photos of people. So that lets those who maybe are at risk or vulnerable, they are, for whatever reasons, they're in care, they are a refugee or whatever, for legal reasons, they can sit in this designated area and have that assurance that there won't be any photos or videos taken of them during the service. Because you are streaming your service, there is reasonable expectation that were somebody to go onto the stage, that they may be included in a video. So if they do not want to be, they do not go onto the stage, right? So that's the general kind of permissions that you have to get from the members of the public. And when I say members of the public, I include us as Adventists in that. Even though it's our church, we're still considered members of the public. Then there's another level, and that's for, if you're taking photos at Pathfinder events of children, of minors, we would need to get permissions from their parents and that sort of thing. Now, I recognize time is against us, but that's kind of just maybe a top level answer to your question.
Okay. Thank you. And just a second, if we have time for that, the second question. So I've started using lower thirds on the A10, and I was struggling because when you get the lyrics and you take all the black out, we usually have the lyrics in a big paragraph in the center. I was struggling to get that. We have one solution, but it's kind of awkward to have all the lyrics in 2 lines, but that would also go to our projector in church. So I wanted to ask if you guys use multiple outputs in Pro Presenter 7, or if there's a way to sort that out.
There is, but I tend to do the 2 lines. That would be my, I know it's difficult, but that's the 2 lines what I would recommend to do. Just because again, when in order for the only way we will do it again, you'd have to like us have a second dedicated Pro Presenter account
Yeah,
to be able to,
as well.
yeah, but like so it gets a bit technical. but
Just on that, you can put obviously you put an output out to the screens for the words. You can do picture in picture, which we implement in our church.
yeah, which
Yeah,
is
picture in picture.
yeah.
Or set
So,
up a new look.
well, that's what I'm saying. Even set up a new look, because again, yeah, I'll message you, Edmund, because I can help you out with that. That's fine. And then Pastor Ruben will be the last question, and we have to kind of wrap up. And then yeah, so Pastor Ruben. Pastor Ruben, yeah, no.
I'm there. Thank you so much for your nice presentation. In fact, I've really learned a lot from your script. My question is, currently, social media is so powerful, and it's one of the tools we are using to spread the word of God. And individuals like pastors, like elders, like a layman, will also set up his phone to do online streaming to spread the word of God. As well as he's presented the church. I think the image of the church must be also to be looked at, so that he or she can put the best out there. So can you briefly give us a little education about personal online streaming too? Some of the tools we must use, some of the gadgets we must get during our streaming, if possible. Thank you, sir.
Because of time, probably wouldn't go into that. But what I'll do, as I said, if you do want to ask me more questions, and again, something I was gonna say, I forgot to say in my presentation, is that if you do want help with setting up your live stream, contact me. My email is on the screen. The presentation will be recorded. Contact me, because I may be able to, we can arrange a day where I could come to your local churches and actually sit down and have meetings with you and kind of help you go through your setups so that you can fine tune it. Because again, what I may have said today may be fairly generic in nature, but again, each church has their own specific needs and requirements. So it's the best way for me to do is that contact me, and then let's arrange a meeting where I can sit down and help you guys. So Pastor, if you email me, and then I can have this conversation, and we can have this conversation and take it from there. Hello. Not necessarily, but
I was thinking the same thing too.
But it's something that we can definitely look into for you. Yeah, that's fine. If that's something that people are interested in, I can definitely look into and see if we can get some sort of forum created that we can. Yeah, so leave it with me. I'll see what I can do, and then get working on that. But thank you everybody for coming to the meeting.
Put your email out there. If you can put the email at the chat.
I'll put my email in the chat now. And then you can again email me anytime, and then yeah, so that should be fine. But we are resuming at 12:30, so again, everybody can leave the breakout room and then go head into the main room and obviously head to the second presentation at 12:30. So thank you very much.
Thanks for the presentation. It's been great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Welcome back, everybody, from your first presentation. Take a break. You're free to turn off your videos, go get a glass of water, stretch your legs, stick your head out to the window to get some fresh air. Enjoy your break, and we'll be starting the second workshop in a couple of minutes.
Thank you.
If anybody wants to ask any questions or you need anything in the meantime, feel free to ask away. Yeah, please. I see you.
Hi, sorry, carry on. Is somebody else there?
Yeah, Pastor
Hold on,
Philpott.
Wale.
Yes, thank you very much. Really appreciate this sessions being put together. I'm actually from the Salford Church in Manchester, and I have been with the church back and forth, and apparently we don't even have enough technical team, so we've been struggling a little bit. But one of the things we have as a challenge is making the church members adapt to new changes within the system being introduced. Coincidentally, Bradell has been working on improving on our gadgets, setting up new model for how we do our services using cameras and live streaming. So I was going to ask, how would you advise, especially because sometimes communications are also important, which I think there's a gap in that within our church. How would you advise we try to promote these changes to members? For instance, they predominantly used to Zoom, and we're trying to see how we can even deploy new technology to encourage youth to also be more proactive and involved in the whole program within the church, even when they don't come. Most times it depends on what approach you take to make your services more engaging, that promotes that interaction for members. And also, sometimes the aims we use predominantly as two-color combination, as they seems to say there are a couple of people, especially the adults, that have issues with color pairing, which restricts us to not using probably pictorial images within aims and the likes. So what would you advise, and how do you think we can go about solving such challenges?
That's a really good question, or questions, maybe I should say. We've got a minute before the breakout rooms are going to be reopened, and we'll go into our second workshop. So let me just speak to the first question, which was change. Change management is hard. As people, we're creatures of habits, and our churches are no different. When trying to bring about change, what I found has been most useful is trying to work alongside your leaders, with your pastor, with your elders. I think as a general rule of thumb, leaders are always welcoming of positive change. So it's how as a leader can you communicate to them the positive changes that will be experienced as a result of the change that you want to bring about. Sometimes we can be fearful of change because we're, the Adventist church, and we want to keep the church pure, and we don't want to see the church being violated by things of the world. And so we can be standoffish to new things. But if you can demonstrate the positiveness or the positives of whatever change you want to bring about with them, it's easy to go to your board with your elders and your pastor on your side than maybe having them against you. So do you plant those seeds before board meeting takes place? Do you have a meeting with the elders directly yourself to try and win them around before you get into the board meeting? Can you present, sometimes we work with boards who aren't, with people who don't understand some of the things that we understand. So can you visually demonstrate what you're trying to work towards? I think maybe there's some of the things to consider, but maybe we can pick up that question afterwards, because it's now 11:30 and we're going to start our second workshop. Is that okay? Yeah, brilliant. Got a thumbs up. Lovely. And if anybody has any technical issues, stick behind as I open up the rooms, and we can speak more. But folks, the breakout rooms now for the second session are open. You've got crisis communication, that's with Pastor Sam Davis. You've got written communication, that's part 2 with Sandra, And Bethany will be leading the third workshop, which is about leveling up your church photography. So feel free to join whichever breakout room you would like to join. And again, they should all be recorded. So if there's something that you aren't attending, but you'd like to listen to after the fact, feel free. We'll send you the link so you'll be able to catch up on all of that.
Recording in progress.
Hello to you all. Yeah.
Hi, Pastor.
I hope you are in the right place. Crisis communication. Wonderful. Yeah, I think we can start now. Crisis communication, handling crisis communication in the local church. Why are we doing this? We're doing this because we want all of us, especially when you're in the communication department, to be aware that part of the things that we oversee is being aware of potential crises in the local church. Why is this so? Because we're dealing with people, individuals who have got issues, and all of us have got issues. And sometimes it impinges on others and it gets into the media. And this is where, if we are not careful, it can upset why we're here and what we do. So what is crisis communication? What is crisis communication? But feel free to interact. This will be a little bit more interactive. When we talk about crisis, what comes to your mind? Waco. Now, that was a crisis in the sense that it represented what Seventh-day Adventists are for. And so many people lost their lives and families were impacted negatively, and the church as well. It threw the Seventh-day Adventist church into the limelight, not for positive reasons, but for negative reasons. That is why we all have to keep an eye in terms of the ministry that we are doing in our territories. So let's look at a few things. It says, crisis tests the character of organizations in a way that nothing else does. And Waco did that. The temptation is always to duck when there is no crisis, delay when there is crisis, and hope that it all blows over. This may have worked years ago, but it doesn't work now. When there is crisis, we have to deal with it. We have to deal with it. So you cannot bury your head in the sun during crisis. When there is crisis, we have to be up to talk about the situation. And I'll be looking at how we as communication leaders also contribute to helping safeguard, the church and our mission. Now, first of all, how do we define crisis in the local church? Examples of crisis in the local church have to do with things like protecting children from abuse in the church. And you may be aware that we expect all officers in our churches to do what?
Safeguard.
Safeguarding, yes. What else? They have to be checked.
DBS.
DBS, yes. So these are some of the ways we are protecting the church from crisis. Because if you've been following the news over the past few years, churches, it started with the bigger ones, the Catholic Church, then it came to the Anglican Church, the Methodist Church, and a few years ago, the Jehovah's Witnesses were also in the limelight, because communities where there is close-knit relationships are the potential grounds where abuses operate or where they function. And so we have to be aware of all of this and help prepare the church against abuse. So part of our crisis communication preparations is to make sure that those who we select to, lead in the church, they are checked and they are safe, and we can trust them with our vulnerable people and our children. What other area can we guard against in terms of crisis? So there's child protection. What else?
Domestic abuse.
Pardon?
Domestic abuse.
Domestic abuse. And, in some of our local newspapers, we've had people who were Seventh-day Adventists who were involved in domestic abuse. Some of them, they misconstrued or misused our health messages, and they came in the news. Now, there are so many other things, including Treasury. If we don't have things in place for, auditing and making sure that all the monies that are received are taken care of, that can become a crisis for the church. That, this church collects money and it is misappropriated. It can throw us into crisis. That is why we have checks in the church. We have, books to sign. We have individuals to, count the money. So it's not left in one person's hands. And then we check it, and then we make sure that there is reporting to the church board and also reporting to the church at large in business meetings. So these are some of the things we're doing to safeguard abuse, financial abuse in the church, and many others. So you will see that crisis, it is something that can, rear its head in any place, from any place. And our role is to also help the church to be aware of some of these things. Vulnerable adults, we've had circumstances, and I'm aware of one of them where somebody who from the church was asked to take care of one of the elderly folks, decided to siphon savings from this person. And so we have to make sure that those who are taking care of our elderly folks, they are all vetted, and nobody goes to, take care of their monies individually. Yes, Arnold, I've seen your hand.
Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to ask is, what if the crisis of, say, there's a dispute on doctrinal issues, and some members actually hold firmly on that in the church, such that it's tearing the church apart? That's one. Or one member may have an issue with the church pastor, and because of the influence that person has, is beginning to have a following, and that's tearing apart. Could those be also examples of crisis communication that needs to be dealt with seamlessly?
Yeah. There are things we call, regular issues in the church, but they become crises when they cross a certain threshold. And so what you're talking about is conflict resolutions. Sometimes when conflicts are not dealt with appropriately, they can be, turn into a crisis situation. So again, we're looking at how can things be dealt with at the onset. When that is seen from the beginning, you deal with it straight away. And let me make reference to what you said earlier on in terms of, varying views of doctrines, and we have offshoots and so on. Now, in churches that I've pastored, I've made this very clear. Every now and then, we have to be aware that we have people who claim to be Seventh-day Adventists, but they are not mainstream Seventh-day Adventists, and they feel they have to convert the church. It is always important to highlight this to the church that these are the stands of the church, and if anybody is inviting them to house meetings without any authorization from the church or an announcement in the church, they have to be wary. We don't do things privately. Somebody mentioned David Koresh at the beginning. This is how it started. They are in the background and they invite you to private house meetings. And sometimes these things can lead to serious repercussions. And so see those when they're sharing leaflets and so on and so forth. Always remind church members that Seventh-day Adventists, we don't do things, privately. Everything is in the open. If there's going to be a house meeting, it will be announced on the platform. If somebody invited them without hearing it formally from the church, they have to be wary. Is that okay?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. 1 second. I think I should have started recording, but it escaped me. Can I see if I can start that now?
Pastor, it's recording.
Oh, it is. Okay, fantastic. Okay. So, you mentioned Waco. That was a huge tragedy. And that was a crisis for the church here. I still remember in 1982, I was at Newbold, when this man came, he took away some students, some brilliant students, and so on. And the media descended on the campus. It was like, something huge. And that is what happens when you have crisis. You are in the eye of the camera. And we were in the camera for the wrong reasons. Even though, and we had to make sure that we're sharing information that this man is not really a Seventh-day Adventist, but, from a branch branch from the church. So getting into crisis, when there is crisis, who should speak to the press? What are your views on this? When there is crisis, who should speak? The president? Okay. Yeah. I mean, you're right. It's not one person who speaks, but we have to make sure that we know who will be speaking on behalf of the church. And now I'm talking about a local crisis in your local church. When there is a press, who speaks to the press?
I think it's really important that we need to be careful when we do speak to the press, because we need to ensure that the information that we've got is absolutely accurate, and then that then should follow through to somebody who's higher than us, because they're the ones that actually sort of in the hierarchy sort of leading the church. So I personally wouldn't speak to the press. If I had that information, I would actually give it to those people in higher authority than myself.
Should it not be somebody nominated by the church board, and the response should be approved by the church board?
Indeed. Thank you. Yeah, good points from both of you, and I'll talk about that. I've seen Kweku, you've raised your hand.
It depends on the issue, because some of the issues, you know, as a safeguarding, I will say, keeping the church family safe officer, if from the first issue that you talked about, if there's an issue of abuse, the guidance says that we need to, if there's the issue of a press interest, it has to go through the conference, and there's an educated person in the conference to manage that particular issue. So it depends on what the issue is.
Yeah, thank you. Now, all the three suggestions you've made, they are all very, very important and relevant. When there is crisis, who should speak with the press? Mary mentioned that, you know, the church will have to designate the right person to speak. And indeed, it is not just anyone who speaks on behalf of the church. When it has to do with the church and it says, you know, let's say lead Seventh-day Adventist Church, Seventh-day Adventist Church means that now this is very official. Now, you cannot speak on behalf of the church if you're not trained how to speak to the media. It is very important because there's a way to deal with crises with the media. And I'll be sharing some of the points with you a bit later so that you have an understanding of it. You know, there's also mentioned that, you know, you look, where is this crisis coming from? If it is a treasury, crisis from treasury, then somebody who is trained and can speak about, you know, the procedures in treasury and how this could have happened is the right person, the best person to talk about it. If it is about health, yes, indeed, you have somebody who is a health leader and can explain that this is not what the church said when it comes to this. And, you know, what happened is not really how the church portrayed, you know, how to go about health. And so it is important that we look at who is appropriate to speak on behalf of the church. And some of the cases, the communication person can be the one who speaks, what it is. He can be approached and he will tell, or he or she will tell the press that, you know, they will come back to them. And what you do during that process is that you relay the information to the leaders to see who can best speak to the press on the issue. And if it is about writing a statement to the press, that can also be done, you know, with the communication person also involved. But a lot of the cases, the church pastor is the one who is leader of the local church and best to speak on behalf of the local church. Unless there is somebody who can be designated to speak appropriately on a particular subject matter. Are you with me? Okay. So knowing how and who to collaborate with during a local crisis. When there is a crisis, you have to come together, see who is best to work with to deal with this crisis. If it is coming from, you know, like as I mentioned earlier on, from treasury or from, you know, child protection issue, you need these individuals to be part of the loop to find an understanding how this came across and how to communicate with the local press on the. And so there has to be crisis management plans for your local church. That is procedures. That when the press knocks on your door or makes a phone call, you must always let them know that you'll get back to them. Get back to them with their response. And usually there is a time scale that can be given. We call it a golden hour, where you can, meet and find the appropriate response to them. Now, in our local church, how do you decide that an event is a crisis? Then we handle a bit of it earlier on. Because there are so many things that can be problematic in the church. The reason why sometimes, the board is constantly dealing with different issues. But regular problems or normal problems are not necessarily crises. It could be an issue which, the church will need to monitor. Or probably we can say that this is a problem, the kind of the church leaders deal with day in and day out. It is always a judgment call when a situation is going to be a crisis. And usually you ask a question, are people's lives involved? Is it involving people's health or welfare? Or, people's welfare are at risk? These are the questions you ask to ascertain whether this is going to be a crisis. Yes, Kweku.
Just want to politely ask Dale to mute his device because we're getting a lot of feedback from him.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah. Yeah, so it is important to look at things critically. Now, does the church organization need to act to protect someone's lives, their health or welfare, and whether the event is its own responsibility? So, it is always important to look at issues as you see them and see if you can curtail them developing into a crisis so that they don't become a crisis. And that is part of what you bring to the church board, that look, there is something happening here, should we look into it? Or there are so many leaders who are not willing to be to be checked in terms of their eligibility to work with children or vulnerable adults. So look at this and then let a church see how best to handle that situation. Very important. Now, there are times when you may not be aware of anything, but it comes through, the media, and they could portray the organization, you might say, fairly or unfairly. How do you deal with this? Now, this is where it is important to look at the situation and consult. If it is something that is outside your remit, consult the conference leadership and communication department to say, look, this information has appeared. It could be that somebody is involved in rape, and it may be that they bear the name of the church with them, that they are a Seventh-day Adventist member. Sometimes we monitor this and begin looking how to respond to the issue. Sometimes they may not mention the name of the church, and so you leave it, but it is good to be ready just in case they mention the name of the church to write about this individual. So those are some of the things to be aware of, monitoring what goes on in the local press, within the church, and even in the courts if a member is involved in a legal issue. And all of this have to do with preparation. Be prepared whenever, for all situations. And part of the preparations are what we spoke about earlier on. If you have in place checks for those who are leading, checks for those who are handling finance, making sure that those who are, how do you call it, overseeing certain things, they are all the appropriate, the right people. And so when you are responding in crisis, you can say that the church as a body has always made sure that these things will not happen. And so we have these things in place and show how this is an unusual situation, and that the church will be working with the appropriate authorities, to deal with it. We don't defend people who are involved in things that the church doesn't stand for. And sometimes somebody may be very devoted and committed to doing great church work, but maybe behind the scenes, they're doing things that are not in line with their belief or faith. When it happens, there is a way to respond. And this is why you work with leadership, and statements can be crafted to address the situation. Okay. Feel free to ask questions as I go along. Otherwise, I'll be sharing 7 tips for crisis communications. 7 tips for crisis communication. Yes, Kweku, send your hands raised.
Yeah, this was quite prominent during the Black Lives Matter issue and during the COVID issues. So one of the criticisms is that the church was incredibly silent and did not put out a statement during that time. And it felt as if, silencing the, during oppression is complicit with the oppressor. And some of us really did struggle that there wasn't any press statement when this issue was gripping the whole world. But our church was silent. And unfortunately, our pastors were fellowed. And we felt a little bit abandoned at that time. Times have moved on a little bit. And, as usual, it's become a bit quiet. But I'll be interested to hear your views on that, and why the church was quite silent when predominantly a lot of people are Black within the church, and we felt that there was no response from our church. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And I was doing this with some ministers, and somebody raised very similar concern that you shared. As a world church, our church is very diverse. And so when there is an issue of the magnitude that happened in the US, it takes a lot of reasoning and working to make sure that we're not alienating anyone. And in as much as you don't have to rush to make statements, you have to be quick as well. Eventually, we had a general conference making a statement regarding the George Floyd situation. Now, regionally, people responded differently. And in America, I was following how different conferences made statements regarding the issue. Here in the UK, I was then the communication director for the South England Conference. And being aware that, the overspill came here and people were involved in demonstrations and so on, we made a statement. We put a statement on our website. And also, I was handling a magazine, a quarterly magazine, and we did a special edition in the heat of it to address the situation as it pertains to us in the UK. It did get a lot of commendation, even from the US. And the GC, one of the departments, requested permission to publish one of the articles that was shared. And we made use of the diversity, the demographic within our church in the South England Conference to write on the issue, addressing it. And so, yes, there was response regionally. So, yes, at every stage, perhaps, we all have a right to say to leadership, what are we saying about this? And there are situations where there is no need to say anything as well. If saying anything is going to, cause more confusion than, help the situation. I hope that is helpful.
Thank you, Pastor.
Yeah, so there are situations like that, but yeah, there are situations when it is, in our domain, we have to make statements about it. And so the 7 tips for crisis communication is preparation is everything. And it is more important to be prepared for crisis, which is the awareness we're making now. When you're aware that when there's crisis, there is a process to follow. There are protocols. It helps you to know what to do. Yeah. But zero preparation or leaving things, just to be there when you are bumped upon by the press, you will be looking, speechless or looking bad, feeling bad, and people can see through your body language that there's something wrong, that you are not at ease, which is why it is important to know which area, does a crisis fall under and who can best talk to it. And so the point here is that we cannot say that we're not saying anything, especially when the crisis has to do with us. The option of doing nothing and saying nothing is not a good one. In a crisis, we must be ready to step forward and speak out. If we fail to do this, or if we do it unconvincingly, the consequences are likely to be severe. As far as the media are concerned, silence and confusion imply guilt. Point number 2, and this is very important, the only caution which matters is from now on, no one says anything to anyone except through comms. What am I saying here? We have to say something during crisis, but if you have not been designated to speak on behalf of the church, don't say anything to the press. You can always refer them to the right people. Just say that with your request, I'll refer you to the right people who can handle it or deal with it. Yeah. We don't want just anyone speaking on behalf of the church. We are aware that in the past, some individuals have gone on television, joining debates that are controversial, thinking that they're going to speak on behalf of the church, and they have portrayed the church in a very bad light. I don't know if you're aware of the big question. It's one of the no-go areas because that program is an entertainment. It doesn't solve any how do you call it, problems. And at most, if you are given any time at all, 2 minutes, do you think you can use 2 minutes to explain effectively one of our doctrines? Impossible. That's why we advise we don't go there. Yes, I've seen Dell's hand, Dell Chambers. He did. Mm. Yeah. Thank you for making that point, and that is so true. And the third point, number 7, is most crises emerge from a media call or something on social media. Don't try to move too fast. You have an hour, what we call the golden hour. Use it to verify, to think, and compose your initial response. Show concern, be concerned, remain calm, and be human. That's a key thing. If you are supposed to, respond, or if you are dealing with the media, yes, be concerned. Just let them know that you've heard, or we're aware of this, but you'll refer them to the appropriate person. You get back to them within an hour. The media allows that, and so you don't have to feel pressured, to give them a response. They may push you, but when they know that you know the protocol, they will relax. But if you tell the media that you'll get back to them in half an hour or 1 hour, it has to be 1 hour. It shouldn't be an hour, 10 minutes time. They would have gone with their own story already, that the church refused to respond. So it is important, if you give a time scale, honor it, but use that time to gather information, speak with those who will be, who will be, the right person, individuals to speak with to deal with the situation.
Pastor?
Hello.
Yeah, I think our benchmark should be the saying, act in haste, repent at leisure. We don't want to give a gut reaction, which is why, as you're saying, tell them to come back or we'll come back within an hour is really good advice.
Yes, yeah. Thank you. That's it, yeah. And so it's very important. Then you don't feel under pressure. You tell them and work within that 1 hour and get back to them. Yeah, so that's the point. Don't try to move too fast. And when you are contacted by the media, these are the questions you can ask them too. Who are you? Where are you from? What is it you want? When is your deadline? What information do you have? And you can ask them, who else have they spoken to? And you can tell them, this is just an example, I'm in a meeting, or can I get back to you within half an hour? Or can I get back to you in an hour? And they indeed will respect that. So this is one of the processes you can use. And number 4, your initial response is extremely important. That is when you get back to them, whoever is speaking to the media, it's often your only response. It needs to be written by someone who has been around the block a few times. It will be accessible forever, which is why we need that space to make sure that we are crafting the best response we can give to the media. Yes, Leslie, you've raised your hand.
Yeah, from my own personal experience, I think sometimes one of the mistakes we make is that we go into defense mode. And while we don't like to hear bad things about our church, and the people we trust, we have to understand we're dealing with human beings. And truth, as Christians, truth matter. It's not my job to defend the pastor if he molested a child. Or if one of my elders is gay, it's not my job to defend him. My job is to get to the truth. And we need, when we're dealing with the media, what we don't understand, because I've worked in the media before, 90% of the times when the media come to you, they've already done their background check and they got the facts. So when we go out as a church lying to them, trying to cover up and make things sound good, they have already spoken to people, they have already done their research, and they have come to you to see what you will say. And it's important as a church that we are truthful. Too many times I've seen the Adventist church lied, tried to cover up things, and it spilled back in their face in the end. We are not perfect. As a church, we are not perfect, and we need to admit that.
Thank you, Leslie. I think in an in-depth presentation on crisis communication, how to respond, all of those things are part of it. We're not there to lie. We're not there to defend an individual at all costs. But there are different ways we deal with responding to the media, in the sense that we have to remember also that we have responsibilities of care for even the offender, in the sense that is there a pastoral aspect. It doesn't mean that we're defending them, neither are we supposed to defend them at all costs. But if this is what you are telling the whole world, that if people make a mistake, they are thrown under the bus, the many folks you want to reach out to will also be careful whether they want to join your church. So there is a delicate way of showing that this person has done wrong and you're willing. It's not, we don't provide a judgment. We are willing to work with the appropriate authorities to look into this issue. You know, I mean, if it goes to the police, we can only cooperate with the police. So that is how we deal with those things. I hope that's helpful.
But wasn't it that the exact argument the Catholic Church was using?
What do you mean by that?
Well, they were saying that they were trying to help the offender, and they were trying to provide grace and all this kind of thing.
No, I don't think that is what I'm referring to, that, you know, the person should be covered. No, the reason we do, you know, our, how do you call it, safeguarding procedures is that if somebody goes against it, they will face the full rigors of the law because they chose to. But we are not making statements that said this person is evil and it has nothing to do. We just show that they have offended, and they will face, you know, we will work with the authorities in terms of, you know, what they have done. We don't provide a judgment. We just leave it to them. It is very likely that perhaps even when the case, you know, when the case comes up, it could be that it's a false allegation. How do you deal with somebody who perhaps was in that situation? What do you think he would think about you? That as soon as there was an allegation, you threw them, you know, you rejected them. You want to portray the thing in a way that this is an unusual case. And you probably will even have a conversation with the individual that this is a police case. And they will do their investigation, and the church can only cooperate with them. I don't know if I've made myself clearer than what I said earlier on. Leslie, your hand is still up. Is it?
Sorry, my hand wasn't up. Anyway, what I was really saying is not to jump to judgment. I was referring to cases where we know, where, and I'm speaking from experience, where something happened, we know the truth, and we try to make it look as though, you know. I'm not saying that something happened, somebody was accused, and then we just jump. And even after a person has committed an offense, as a church, there's a procedure that we have to follow as Christians. But there's also a legal procedure that needs to be followed. Indeed. So I'm not saying that we must go and say people must go to hell or they're wrong or they're right. That's not our job. My statement was in connection when we find out the truth, it's our job not to cover it up. And too many times we try to do that and it backfires on us.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, our role is not to cover up any wrongdoing. Yeah. Thank you. Kweku.
Yes, Pastor. I think in relation to what you said, our initial response is extremely important.
Yeah.
I think that you normally have communication to say that as a church, we, for instance, in cases of abuse or allegations of abuse, that statement should normally would come along the lines of, as the church, we take allegations of
That's right.
abuse quite seriously, and we are going to cooperate with the law enforcement agencies in any investigations that they take. Because that statement is to send a strong, I'll say, message to anybody contemplating, and that's the church's position. So as well as we don't want to throw anybody under the bus, and in case it is a false allegation, I think that response would also send a clear message that we are against anything of that nature. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you. Let's go to the fifth point. When you're dealing with crisis, it says separate the people handling the crisis from the people dealing with the communication of it. And so let's say there is an accident in the church or whatever. We might send individuals who are taking care of those who have been harmed, taking them to hospital and maybe providing counseling or whatever. But then the person doing the communication will be able to relay this information during their response, that the church, this incident came out of nowhere, and as soon as it happened, we dispatch these individuals to make sure that the family is safe and they're being catered for, the children are being handled by this, and also we've provided a counselor and so on to deal with the situation. So folks will be acting on dealing with the situation, but then you still have those who are speaking on behalf of the church regarding the situation. Number 6, training. Most organizations and their leaders get media training once or twice a year. In crisis, the media are like sharks. That is why it is important to understand how to deal with them. So we're trying, at the union level and also conference level to give our pastors spokesperson training at least once a year. We're trying to see how this can happen. We have done a few. Not all pastors have been given that training, but the aim is to train them so that when there is crisis, they have the protocol in mind so that they can follow what most organizations are doing to respond to the crisis. But your role is to work with them. Having this understanding helps to deal with a crisis when it comes, because you can also be supportive of the church pastor in helping the church to understand that there are some protocols to follow. The 7th point is that people neither know nor remember the details of a crisis. And I listen carefully. The crisis itself, people after a while don't remember the details of it. What they remember forever is how the organization behaved during that crisis. That's why the spokesperson is all important. So we don't just get anybody to say things, but we get people who understand how to take into consideration everything so that when they are speaking, they know what to do. And so if there are people who have been harmed, you don't start by defending yourself, Leslie. The idea is that you start by maybe recognizing the pain that the victims have endured or are enduring, and you sympathize with them. You start with acknowledging the pain, or that even if even if it is their own doing or not, acknowledge the suffering that is taking place. And then you'll be able to talk to the situation, that the situation, has happened in spite of all the cautions that the church has put in place for it not to happen. And then show how the church is trying to come to terms with the situation and how they're working with the appropriate authorities to deal with it. So when you understand the process and it's lodged in your head, it's easier to communicate with the media. And you're winning the sympathy of even those who have been affected. The tone of voice, how you respond is very important. You can't start being defensive. Then people will say you're not sensitive. The situation on the ground is that people's life has been affected. Recognize it, acknowledge their pain, and sympathize with them, and then move on to the other stage. And then you can bridge what you have said with what the organization stands for. That the organization really, the work that we do is about helping people to have better lives. If it is about health, and we do all these things so that people will have a holistic life. But this is unfortunate, and we will continue making sure that people's lives are enhanced. Now, a summary before we do have a discussion. So identify a situation. When there is a problem, see it, assess it, and then see if you can understand it. Let everybody understand that this is what has happened. Now, how do you cope with the situation? These are the things you do. And then the strategy that you will adopt to go about, what has happened. And then after that, recovery procedures. The church, after the crisis, must come back to life. And it is all part of the crisis communication to deal with getting everybody to, get back to what we do best, and reaching the lives of people to know Christ. Thank you. That is the presentation. And then we will use the next few minutes for any comments or questions that you may have. Yes, from in this order, Kweku, Mary, and Leslie.
Okay, thank you, Pastor.
If you can be brief so that we can allow the others to.
Very, very brief, yes. On the subject of church discipline, which is often public and quite predominant among the churches that are congregated by a lot of Black people. When matters of such nature, which is quite private, very intrusive, very emotive, become a subject of public discourse, it does cause a lot of crisis within our churches. And I've studied carefully over my life, because I was born into the church, the devastation that this causes. What would be your advice in terms of managing some of these situations? Does every family, I would say, breakup or matters of that nature be subject to public business meetings?
Very good point. I happened to pastor a certain church some years ago where when I went there, they brought to the church board, they said, this body, they're looking into a family's breakup. And my first question that I asked was that among the group, have they got a counselor, somebody who studied counseling in it? There wasn't. And so I said to them that these marriages are private matters. And if there is a challenge in it, it has to be dealt with still privately. So it is something that some churches have to be aware of. You don't handle people's marriages on a church board unless it has to do with some particular situation where there is church discipline, but not, spilling out their relationship in public, because that always tends to divide the church. Is that helpful, Kweku?
Pastor, I was referring to the church discipline in during a business meeting, which always it's always quite distasteful when people's matters are brought for discipline, because it is always about censorship and disfellowship and has to put to be a vote, and therefore the matters are brought to public scrutiny. That is the bit.
Yeah. It would be difficult for me to respond to this, not knowing exactly what the situations would be. And that is more an internal situation where you want people to be sensitive, as opposed to seeing this as a crisis going into the press. It's not really germane to this topic, I have to say. Yeah. I mean, we can talk about that later on when you have the chance. Yes, Mary, please.
It's just a comment on you saying about choosing the right communicator, but I think this scenario applies to our communications generally. I don't know if any of you remember, many years ago, there was a case in Australia where a couple were accused of murdering their child, and they said that the dingoes, when they were camping, had actually stolen the child.
Yes.
And the mother, when she was interviewed on the television, showed absolutely no emotion. And I think the whole world judged that mother as being guilty because of her demeanor. When many, it might even have been a year down the line, it was actually proven that what the couple were saying was true, and that the dingoes had killed the baby. But you know, the world judged them as guilty because of their demeanor and their communication.
Yeah, yeah.
So it shows how important communication is.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, and that has to do with I think number 6 of what was it the 7th point, in terms of, you know, how you make people feel when responding to the media regarding a particular situation.
And it was even more pertinent to us because that couple were Seventh-day Adventist.
Yes, yeah, yeah, and that brought us into the limelight. I still remember that story, you know, going on for years, and even recently it came in to show that, you know, there was a documentary that showed that she wasn't. I mean, she didn't kill their own child.
I think it even was a film. I think they made a movie out of it.
That's so yes, when there is crisis, it's very, very, very important to be intentional in how you respond, taking everything and everyone into consideration. Okay, our time is almost up. I saw Leslie's hand, but I think that is gone.
Yeah.
Now.
What I was saying is that
About 30 seconds.
yeah, when we're doing our crisis control, as you said, speak to the media, the conference, a lot of times we forget the very church members where the crisis have occurred. And we're busy doing public relations outside, and nobody is informing the members as to what's going on with the case, where it's going, etc. And that could create some confusion too.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yes, the main audiences are, you know, the domain where the incident happened. They need to know, and of course, your communication, even sometimes through the media, is also directed at them as well.
Recording in progress.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I hope that you've had a really fruitful couple of hours in the various breakout rooms. I was jumping around the various workshops to listen in on the sorts of questions that were being asked, and the direction the presenters were going with the various presentations. It was really interesting. It was really, really interesting. There were some good questions. I've made a note of some of them. No doubt I'll be touching base with some of the other presenters, the next couple of days as well, just to keep listening and get any feedback. And if there is anything that we need to address in the coming weeks, we can certainly do that. Arnold, you've got a question, have you?
Yeah. There was a session that I would have wanted to attend, but I couldn't. I went to the first one, which was to do with media. Are these recorded so that we can have access to this after?
Yes. Yes, they've been recorded.
All right, thank you.
No problem, no problem. The next, and I can't speak for every departmental workshop that's taken place, but where there are others that have been recorded as well, the next couple of weeks we'll be uploading them all to YouTube and getting those links out to you guys. So we'll do that. When you've registered, we've got your email addresses. For some of you, we already have those. Maybe for others, we don't. But we'll be sharing those. It'll be a couple of weeks because, as you can imagine, there's a lot of presentations that will need to be prepared and uploaded onto YouTube. All right. And Mary, yes, I think I've answered that question for you. All right, lovely. So let me just share with you then a couple of bits related to the department. We don't have much longer left, but there's some general information that I want to share with you all as well. A little bit about the journey that we've been on. So the way. There we go. So over the last year, we've done quite a number of things that have been quite interesting to see come through to fruition. In terms of us as a department, you'll see I shared at the beginning that there are new team members. So if I go backwards and just share this again, I know there was a couple of questions came in about our email addresses. So you'll see on the screen the email addresses for the three of us, myself as a director, Caleb as a media and broadcast technician, and Bethany as the departmental secretary and photographer. Feel free to take a screenshot of that should you need to reach out to any of us over the next, whenever. But as a department, we've been able to invest in the team, both employees as well as volunteers. There are so many individuals that contribute towards the department in so many different capacities. And you would have seen an announcement that was shared on Friday that the communications and media director, for now it's me, but the director is now a full-time role. And this is the first time that it's happened in the NEC. Previously, the director has been a 50% role. So with previous directors, Lungani, many of us know, Geraldine Farmer, etc., they either had another job outside of the church, or if they were like myself and they were a minister, then we were assigned to a church. And so I used to pastor one church. But as of January the 1st, the executive committee made this a full-time role, which is just incredible because it allows the director, whoever it may be, to really focus a lot more on the department supporting you, the churches, and supporting the organization. So it's really, really interesting. We have hi, Caleb. There is so much growth in the department, and you'll see coming to some of the events, there are always new faces. People are helping with camera operating, sound tech, visual tech, whatever it may be. And that's really, really exciting. We've been able to partner with the SEC and the BUC on media projects, and you'll see that even more so in the coming months. There's a really big joint BUC in Holland youth congress that's taken place in July, and this is a joint venture between the SEC and the NEC that are supporting on this, that we're able to come to the table and really contribute in a meaningful way, which is really exciting. We've been able to invest in new cameras. You'll see that there's a lot of new things that are going on, allowing us to be able to do things that we've not been able to do in the past with the roaming shots, the roaming cameras that we've got, etc. We've been able to do workshops. We consult a lot with churches, and now obviously with a larger team, we can support our churches in a greater and meaningful way. And over the last year, we've been able to subsidize various different training programs for individuals to be able to attend. But moving forward, this is where it's really getting exciting. This is really, really where it's getting exciting. I've shared with some of you in the past in terms of the media center that's here in Birmingham. And now we're at the stage of really rolling it out in a really meaningful way. So it's about getting this place really utilized. I'm here at the minute. Pastor Sam Davis is in the meeting room or the multifunctional room next door as well. Our pastors have been encouraged or have been told that they can use this space for board meetings, fraternals. You want to have a Bible study because you've got multifunctional meeting space as well as 3 studio rooms. I'll share a little bit more about that in a moment. It is about increasing the quantity of media productions, both in-house as well as grassroots level. This is a space for you to be able to use. And so already we're starting to do it in small ways. And in the coming weeks and months, it's going to continue to grow where you can come in and use these suites, the studios, I should say, and record podcasts, video reels, if you would like, for your social medias at church and be able to utilize these facilities. The third bullet point is investing in a van for transporting equipment. And it may seem like just a small, meaningless item, but it's huge because it transforms the logistics for the department, allowing us to do a lot more. And this is something that's coming in the next few weeks. Increasing accessibility to content through our digital channels, being able to turn a lot of what we do within the various events that we run into podcasts and episodes that you'll be able to listen on Spotify and other platforms. We've just done this for the first time with the Connected Leadership event that took place in November, turning them all into podcasts and making them available on Spotify and other platforms in the weeks and months to come. There'll be more opportunities for training and departmental involvement. There are some of you that want to get involved in the department. We want to open that up more for individuals. As well as launching the reporter initiative. Shared a little bit about this at the beginning. It's really to kind of equip and empower members to go across the conference and to be able to report on the stories and the events and the initiatives that are taking place. There's a quote that says, I'm going to budge it because I don't have it written down in front of me, but it's about a blessing that's experienced twice. Once when you first experience it, and the second time when you share it with somebody else. And so how do we keep resharing and telling the story of the incredible things that are going on in our local churches around the conference? And so there's a lot of things that are really exciting, really exciting to see. And I'm hoping that many of you will get involved in some of these things. So to share a little bit more about the media center, we've got the multifunctional meeting room. You can comfortably get about 7-8 people around the table with more seated around the room as well. There's conferencing facilities, kitchen facilities. You want to come in on a Sunday afternoon to be able to record an episode for, whatever it may be, or you want to start and launch a podcast with some of the young people in your church. There are facilities here to be able to do that. There's 3 main studios. The first is a audio only recording for up to 3 people. The second studio is video and audio recording for 1 person with a green screen behind you. And the third is for video and audio recording for up to 4 people. That's the larger out of the 3 rooms. And there is accommodation here. It's really basic. On the top floor, we have 2 bedrooms, a kitchen facility as well as bathroom and showers, etc. So anytime you're traveling from far or you want to come and stay over on a Saturday night so you can hit the ground running on a Sunday morning, it's not a 5-star hotel, but it's comfortable and it's clean, and you'll be able to use them. Let me show you a couple of pictures. This is a multifunctional room. This is where Pastor Sam Davis has been meeting from today, and we occasionally have team meetings in here. Yeah, that's the meeting room. Just wanted to show you a picture of it being used, that you'll be able to use the facility as well. And this is the Studio 3 where you'll be able to do audio and video recordings. We've been able to run different training workshops for people where they've come in, and in the particular picture that you see at the bottom, a couple of the young people were learning how to use the P16, so some in-ear monitoring system for audio techs. And there's more that we have within this facility. You just see a glimpse of it here, which is really exciting. But here's something I really want to encourage us to do, right? Many of our churches, we have social media accounts, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, maybe some of us are on TikTok, YouTube, whatever it might be. And we're all trying to achieve the same sort of thing, right? The exposure of our local church. And we want to get our content out there. But I think what will be really nice is if we can encourage each other in this endeavor. And so what I want you to do is in the chat, drop a link to your church's Facebook, Insta, YouTube, whatever accounts that you have. And I want us to all go and follow each other. And, you know, in this room right now, there's over 50 of us. Imagine if we could just grow our Instagram account from 50 people to 100 people just by the end of this training presentation. But I think it'd be really nice that we can support each other, encourage each other, share one another's content when we are running initiatives or programs, or we've done a really cool concert last Sabbath, and there's a reel that's been shared on Facebook or Insta, you know, showcasing that particular event. But if you want to drop it in the chat, a direct link or a handle to your church's account, do so. Let's go and share and support one another. If you want to follow the NEC, these are the NEC's accounts, NEC Adventist. We use the same handle across multiple channels. So do go and follow us and share the content that's out there. We did a survey some time ago trying to learn about how do members want to hear about things that are going on in our conference. And social media was I think it was number 1 or number 2 in terms of the communication channel that people want to receive information. So do go share and follow the NEC. There are a number of post types that have been created over the last few weeks that have been scheduled now in the coming days and coming weeks to grow what we're doing on social media. So it'll be really cool that if you're following us on social media, that you can reshare it with your channel, through your communication channels, with your members and with your followers, because we need to work together on these things. Some resources to share with you. I'm going to run through these pretty quickly. Some of these we already have presentations on, or resources that I'll share with you via email after the fact, that we can go into more detail. That will go into more detail on the Adventist branding. We have the guidelines as an Adventist church on how we brand ourselves. If you're unsure what branding is, have a little Google of it. It's all to do with how do people visually identify us. How do we communicate ourselves? How do we, if somebody were to look at a particular graphic, is it really clear that it's made by the Seventh-day Adventist Church? We have the 28 fundamentals that unite us theologically, but then we have the brand guidelines that unite us visually as well. We aren't just our own independent churches, but there is strength in the collectiveness of us. And whilst we may be, in our cities, there might be multiple Adventist churches. In Leeds, we have 3 or 4 churches. In Birmingham, there's 14, 15. Manchester, there's a dozen or so. And we may have our internal city divisions. This is our territory and that's your territory. But when we're doing evangelism to the community, we're just Seventh-day Adventists. And it really doesn't matter whether in our evangelism efforts, if community member goes to North or Central Church, as long as they go to an Adventist church. So how do we collectively ensure that we are visually united? I'll share some resources and a particular website with you after this event via email about the Adventist Church's branding. You've got the NEC channels. I just shared that a moment ago. You've got the NEC website as well. On average, we receive between 1,200 and 1,600 visitors each month to the NEC website, and that's continually growing. That's not one person coming back 5 times, another person coming back 10 times. That is 12 to 1,600 unique people every month that is using the NEC website. It's like 96% of those come from the UK. So we're talking about our website being used by our members as well as external people as well. So do continue to use that. Our directors and sponsors seek to provide resources on their departmental website, departmental webpage, I should say. So you'll get a lot of resources through that as well. It's a good place to start if you have any questions. The next is Net Adventist website. If your church would like to have a website, but you don't have the in-house skills to be able to set it all up, a Net Adventist website is a free tool. My department covers the cost for your local church, and it allows you to be able to have a website, and you only take care of the content. All of the text, all of the images, that's what you take care of. But everything else in terms of the management, the updating, the security, etc., It's really done at a union level, in fact, with thanks to Pastor Davis and the IT manager at the union. Over the last few weeks, you know that we've rolled out the second annual period of the CCLI licenses. It's really an endeavor to mirror what our sister entities do to ensure that our churches are compliant with music copyright law and legislation here in the UK. So few of our churches were getting their own CCLI licenses, and so by having this collective umbrella, it's worked really effectively. There's been one or two teething issues, as you can imagine, with 141 churches and church plants. But we're into the second year. But if anybody has any questions about that, email us. We can show you a presentation that was done. We invited the UK service manager for CCLI to come and present to our local leaders, pastors, elders, music leaders. So there's a lot of answers out there if you do have any questions about it. The next is the TD manual. So the TD, here it is. The TD have developed this communications and media guide. They've done it in collaboration with other entities within our church. And so it's available both both digitally and in print. Now you can access this digitally. We'll send you the link to it, so you'll be able to. It's a 100-page manual with content on a whole lot of different things. So we'll share that free of charge. There's no charge to access in the digital version of it. But we know that some people like it in print. If anybody would like a printed version, again, there's going to be a link that I'm going to share with you, and you complete it with your address, your name, some other details, and we'll mail you a printed version of this if that's going to be helpful for you and your team. It's really just another resource to put in your hands to help you in your local churches, and we'll cover the costs for mailing it to you, printing it for you, and all that sort of stuff. So that's the TD manual. The next is Flickr, and this was mentioned by Bethany in the photography workshop. We use Flickr to make images publicly accessible from the various events that we cover. One of the things that we've heard in the past is that pictures are taken, but we never get to see them. And this account, our Flickr account, is publicly accessible. Our pastors have the link to it, and we've shared it with you in the past, but I really want to stress that it's there for you to use. So if you've got a Pathfinder event coming up, or you've got a health expo coming up, and you want good, high-quality images, then go check out our Flickr account, and you're more than welcome to download any of those images and use them in your posters, flyers, social media posts, whatever it may be. Next up is the weekly devotionals with Pastor Kumi. Many of you know Pastor Kumi is the NEC president. And every Monday we share a weekly devotional with Pastor Kumi. We're traveling across to different areas of our conference. We've been to area 2 this quarter. We're in area 4. Next quarter we'll be in a different area, and we are filming devotionals from various churches. Many of us don't have the luxury of being able to go to all the different churches that we have in our conference. And by sharing these weekly devotionals from our churches for our members by our president, it really just allows us to have a fresh start to the week spiritually. And so we've been sharing the link with you, and I just continue to encourage you. Every Monday, take that link, share it on your church's WhatsApp groups, share it in your churches, on your church's newsletters, in your bulletins, play it on a Sabbath morning. If you need some content to share on your live stream, it's there. They're only 3 minutes long. It's a really cool tool. So here's just some screen grabs from the YouTube thumbnails for the first couple of episodes that we did in Liverpool North. Really, really lovely church. I had never been to it until we were filming this first series, but every Monday that comes out. The next is Adventist Teams. If you've never heard of it, it's almost like a social media app for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. It was created by the General Conference, and there's a lot of really, really good content that's shared through that platform. So go and download it, subscribe to it, share it with your members. It's a great tool that we have as an Adventist church, and it's available both on iPhones and Androids. So it kind of covers. It's got something for everybody. Next up is the NEC Communicator. It's a monthly newsletter that we share on the last Thursday of every month. We have over 1,000 subscribers, and we are always wanting to grow that. A lot of the communication that we do within the Adventist Church is funneled through different layers within our structure. So if there's an update that's got to come, it'll be shared typically with your pastor or your elders, or if it's related to women's ministries, it's going to go to your women's ministries leader in your local church, and they're then supposed to pass it on to your members. But what we hear is that, oh, well, I didn't know about this. But via email, we can communicate directly with you and with your members. And so definitely take the time to get your members subscribed to this, because once a month we can email them directly and say, hey, this is what's taking place around our conference. These are the resources that are new that are may be really interesting for you. And these are the events that are taking place next month. So do really take that time to get your members subscribed to NEC Communicator. Next up is a messenger magazine. Just to really stress this point, we know that we can get it in print. It comes out every 2 weeks, but you can digitally receive it as well. You can subscribe to their newsletter and you can access the messenger magazine online. Some of us ask that question occasionally, well, nobody really reads magazines anymore. That's not exactly true. Some people do. But if you're the person that likes to read it on your phone, then you can access it. Just know that you can access it on your phone. The messenger magazine. If you need a link to it, you can go back and check one of the previous communicator editions. But again, we'll share this in a follow-up email following this today's workshop. So you've got all those resources at your fingertips. We've also got the BUC news that goes out more regularly than the NEC communicator. It's a great tool to be able to see what's going on around the Adventist Church in the British Isles, and to be able to stay abreast with what's going on in the Welsh Mission. I know we've got one of the Welsh Mission sponsors with us today, Crystal. What's going on in the SEC, the Scottish Mission, etc. So that's really a really good resource. Last but not least is Hazelwood Retreat. Some of us went there last year for camp meeting, or we've been there for another event. It's the new place that the SEC launched last year. It's a really beautiful place. So if you're looking for a church retreat, a location for a church retreat, it's a great place. It's run by Adventist, or it's owned by the SEC. But occasionally we share on their behalf their monthly newsletter. So it's why you receive an email from myself, from Bethany or Caleb, giving you their monthly newsletter. We share it on their behalf because, well, it's Adventist run, and we like to keep ourselves abreast with what's going on within the Adventist Church. James, I see you got a question. Was it related to one of the resources?
Yeah, it was just I probably everyone here has the same issue I have of trying to get information from elders and pastors and people who want content. I was wondering if there was like a central folder where we could access all this, so we can just, rather than them trying to share it to us, we can just log onto it through a link, and we can see that week or that monthly folder and pull the content out of it.
Yeah, great question. There hasn't been in the past, but we've started to work on it for 2024. Not all directors or sponsors have all of their posters ready. So we're just giving them a little bit more time to collect all of their event information. And the aim is to put it all inside a publicly accessible folder, separated by each month. So you'll be able to receive all of the event posters and things that are going on across the conference. If you want to see those same events, you'll be able to go to the NEC website. On the event section, you'll be able to get that information, the same information there. Or if you were to go to some of the departmental web pages, a lot of the directors and sponsors share resources through that channel as well.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there was like a central media sort of like Dropbox or a Google Drive where you'd have something like February 2024, or Sabbath like 27th of January. You could click on the folder and it just showed everything that was there, that we could grab out what we need.
Yeah, sure. That's what I'm saying. Will be coming hopefully soon, once we have all of the final information for this year from the various directors and sponsors. By the grace of God, that'll be coming the next couple of weeks.
That's brilliant. Thanks.
No problem, James. David?
Thanks, Jay. Yeah, a couple of very, very specific questions. So number one, I think once we all finish this, the Zoom will close down and the chat will disappear. There looks like there's a lot of amazing content, but would you be able to distribute to all of us on the call via email, or do we need to sort of copy and paste it while we're on still? That was one question. Second one is an idea I've had for a while, actually, is I think as a communication group, we could do well with having a means of communicating with each other. And I've had the idea of, like a Facebook group. It could be Adventist Teams or something like that, but some sort of channel where we're not only being broadcast material from the conference, but it's a forum or a platform where individual churches can post questions maybe, and other churches can respond, but it's more of a sort of collaborative platform for individuals just to sort of communicate with each other. And that's an idea I've had, as I say. And maybe Adventist Teams has got something, but it's just an idea I definitely want to float to see if we can get something going on. Yeah.
No, I like that. I like that. So let me take you two questions then. The first was around resharing the platforms that have been added into the chat or sent in the chat. Yeah, sure, we can definitely do that. If anybody, we can do it right now. But we can also share that after the fact. That's not a problem. And in terms of the forum, I think that's a really good suggestion. No, David, I appreciate that.
Just to chip in there, the on the chat on the top right, there is a function to save the chat as well. So if everyone wants a copy of it, they can just click the three dots on the top right of the chat, click save, and it will save to your personal computer.
Could I just get no, thank you, James. Could I get just way of interest levels? If you would be interested in if it is a Facebook group or whatever forum it is, a WhatsApp group, just give me a thumbs up if you'd be interested in something like this from a comms media perspective. Keep sending those thumbs up if you're interested. Okay, that's quite a few. That's quite a few. Okay, no, I really appreciate that, James. Thank you. Seems like there's other people that are interested in this, so if we can make it work, let's make it work. All right, let me stop sharing my screen. That way I can see your faces a little bit more as we're just coming to the last couple of questions. Lorraine, shoot.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I really appreciate the presentations that have been done today. Just going from what colleagues have just said, just said with regards to communication, a lot of the positions and church roles have changed, and so there's new email addresses for communications. How do we know that the information that you've got is actually accurate? Because you might not be receiving information that you say sending out.
100%. That is always a challenge that we have. So the responsibility for updating the conference with your church's officers is your clerk, right? So my clerk used to do it in all of my churches. Whenever we went through the process of nominating committee, they were supposed to give to the conference then the list of all of the updated officers, elders, children's ministries, leaders, etc., etc. Because at a conference level, we have a database for each of the departments, but we can only email those with whom we know are serving in these roles within your church. So go back to your local churches, give your clerk a little nudge, some encouragement to ensure that we get all of the contact information for all of your officers in your church. What I will be doing anyway after today's conversation is taking all of the email addresses and names from people who've attended today's workshop, and I'm going to add you to our comms email list. Many of you are already on that email list. I'm going to add everybody else onto that because I think from my perspective, by coming today, you've demonstrated some interest in communications and media. So I want to make sure that we keep you abreast with the various developments in the department.
That's super. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. Enroy, talk to me from Bilston.
Thank you, mate. This is continued idea that was mentioned just not too long ago. Now that you've got a permanent staff, can you do a YouTube channel on things on? All right. Have you ever heard of AJ the CEO?
AJ the CEO. I'm not sure
Yes.
if I no, I don't
Well,
think so.
his YouTube channel is what taught me how to set up the Bilston live stream and how to manage the audio and all that kind of stuff. Now that you have a permanent staff, could you do something similar to that?
It's a good question. So I've just Googled it as you were talking. I'm not currently subscribed to him. There's a couple of other people that I've used. Church
Yes.
is a great resource, and there's others as well. Alex Petit.
Yes,
Alex,
him too. Yes. You're on the right track then. But
yeah, no, that's
AJ the CEO is the one that was much more help to me than all the others. And if now that you've got a studio, you've got permanent staff. I mean, when I was setting up back in the days of COVID, it was a challenge to get to. First, the other churches weren't upcoming as we all are now, but we still have issues. I noticed that Caleb was able to do a quick couple seconds on the X32, which seems to be a common denominator among the churches. But there are those of us, little churches like us, who have equipment similar to like the XR18 shoebox size stuff. Audio is my biggest problem. And I think there are many other churches that share the same thing. If we can get a YouTube channel that we can always go back to and look through, that would be a great help.
And Rory, I like the idea. If I'm completely honest with you, we, despite now having a team, their workload is already scheduled for weeks to come. And I'm sure it's the same the case in your local churches. It doesn't matter how big your team gets; it's never big enough, right? We could always do with another pair of hands here or there. So here's what I want to do, right? I want to put the ball a little bit back, not necessarily just your court, Emroy, but everybody else's. If you've got an interest in being in front of the camera and being involved in this initiative, creating these sorts of videos, get in touch and let me know. I think Emroy, your idea is great, but I think there's going to be more value in if we could do it together, right? So if it was yourself, Emroy, or there's somebody else, and you wanted to come and do a couple of episodes and whatever it may be, then let's share that. Let's share that knowledge together. I think that would be really cool. Lovely, top stuff. Folks, I recognize that we've come to our 1 o'clock. We do have a couple of hands, and I know there's some questions that are in the chat. I just want to clear up one thing. So we'll work our way through the questions. But let's give ourselves another maybe 5 or 10 minutes and see how we get on. From my side, I don't have any more updates for you. It's just a case of answering these questions and then closing us off for the day. Charles, let's go with your question first, and then we'll come to Del.
Right. So good morning, or sorry, good afternoon, everyone. So Pastor, I've just got a couple of things that I just wanted to mention. First of all, like I said, I've been part of the audiovisual at our church for over 10 years. And one of the biggest things we've always had issues with is with regards to funding. Obviously, because of the fact that there are always other pressing issues, especially if you've got a historically old building. It's not always necessary. Maybe you might have gotten microphones 10 years previously, and they'll tell you, "Oh yeah, we got your microphones," and the expectations are that they're still going to be functional. But so what we did is we're trying to be proactive. We've reached out because my field is IT, and so we reached out to some of the companies that I have been dealing with over the years, and what they have said is because these ones, what they do is they recycle old equipment. They deal with companies like, for example, the BBC and so forth. So they recycle their equipment. So what I did was we went and we proposed that, look, would you be able to give us some equipment of any nature? Because I said, if the equipment is 1 year old, it's better than the 6-year-old equipment that we have. Because as I've said, for us, the most pressing issue that is not addressed is that we now know the equipment that's needed, but it's the funding. So what these guys have said is the first initiative that they did was we asked them for their computers. And as I've said, they've given us 1-year-old computers for £60 because we've got elderly people and they still try and access Zoom and so forth. And they can't because some of the equipment is very old. So they gave us the initiative. They say, look, we're more than willing to help fund you guys by giving you subsidized computers. And so we took on that challenge. So what they've said is they do also get access to audio or visual equipment, but because it's bulky, they would need to know, for example, if there are people that will be interested in procuring it, if they were to, for example, get it for us. And so this is something that I was thinking maybe it might be worth looking at, simply because we are at a point now where funding is going to be the key factor. I think some of the stuff, when we were working it out, it's working out to maybe close to £3,000 to have a decent equipment. That was for us what we were working it out. So it might be worth maybe for other churches that might be willing as well to join us in requesting some of that equipment and even computers to see if it would help as well.
I appreciate that, Charles. Lovely. That's fantastic. If Charles, we had a conversation about this as well, didn't we, recently?
Oh yeah, I believe so. I believe we did.
Yeah. I was at the beginning. I'm listening to you talk. I'm thinking, wow, this sounds really familiar. No, it's a really good idea. From our perspective, and this is what I said to Charles. If any of you were ever in this position where you came across a company that was getting rid of old IT gear, whatever it may be, we can help with logistics, right? If we need to bring up a van one of the days and load up all of a whole bunch of gear, and we can help disseminate it amongst the churches. Any opportunity that you come across, let us know. We'd be more than happy to help with that. I appreciate it. Thank you, Charles. Del, you've got a question. Yeah, no, great question. Love it. So, Del, there's an answer to the question already, and maybe I should have shared that in the resources section, to be fair, it's in my mind. So I'm glad you asked the question. So within the department, we have a whole lot of different equipment. Some of it is pretty new stuff. Some of it is older gear, I'm sure very much similar to your local churches. And we do allow churches to borrow our gear. We have a number of requests from time to time to borrow microphones. Some of our churches may only have 4 or 5 mics, but you're doing a big concert and you need an extra 3 or 4 mics, or you've only got wired and you want to borrow some wireless, those sorts of things. So we do loan out our gear, right? To be able to... Sorry, Charles. Sorry, Dale. We have done cameras as well. Yes, cameras. The XR. So which is a smaller version of the X32, for example. The process is, and I can send this out in more detail if anybody is interested in knowing more, but the process is you need board approval. What maybe has happened in the past is gear has gone out and it's developed legs, or it's come back broken, and the question is, who's responsible for paying for it? If something comes back broken, and the board will say, well, we didn't know this person had asked for it on our behalf, so that person can pay for it. And it just gets messy, right? It just gets messy. So we work within a church structure with our board. So if you want to borrow some gear, you've got a concert coming up in a couple of months, get in touch. As long as you got board approval, you take responsibility. Things develop legs, you take the responsibility for that, etc., etc. Do you know what I mean? So more than happy to help with that. All right, lovely. Leslie, you've got a question.
Hi, how are you? I have a very young team. Well, most of my guys are inexperienced. They've not been in communications or media before, so I'm trying to train them. The problem is at my church, as the brother said, with the limitations of funds, I can't buy a lot of equipment. So my thing is, I would love to get my team together maybe a Sunday and bring them up to the studio so they could actually have some hands-ons, what things look like. I could explain better to them. How do I arrange that?
Get in touch.
Will somebody be there to, give us a run through? Because I believe most people learn better when they see stuff rather than me trying to explain all the time to them. So it's a trip I'm thinking about, but how do I go about doing that?
Get in touch with me. Drop me an email, give us a call.
Thank you.
And we can make that happen. I already showed you one of the pictures where we did this already. We do this occasionally. So if we can help facilitate that for you and your team, yeah, awesome. Let's make it happen. That'd be really cool. And just to follow up on a question somebody asked about equipment, there is no charge as well. We don't charge churches for borrowing the equipment. We pay our tithes and we support the church, and this is just a resource for the church. However, you decide to spill a drink over a £200 microphone. God bless church insurance, eh? But there's no cost. Kevin, you've got nope, your hand's gone. Answer the question for you. Brilliant. Can I share emails again? Yep. Let me put that back on the screen and you can take a screenshot of it. Or what might be easier is if you just email the inbox, right? So that we've got a general departmental email address. Just put it in the chat. Feel free to email us there and we'll pass that on to the relevant people within the team. Let me try and answer the last couple of questions that came in the chat. There's a question around where we are. The media center is in Birmingham. It's opposite Campbell, I think. Yeah, Bethany answered that question. Thank you, Bethany. We use parking at Campbell and we're just a 2-minute walk away from there. The NEC office where you've got all the directors' offices and that sort of stuff, Treasury, that is in Nottingham. Somebody asked about Churchfinder. Yeah, Churchfinder is still accessible through the NEC website. That is a publicly accessible database of all of our church's addresses. We send occasional encouragements for you to update us if you change your church address, but typically we find that out anyway through your pastor or through your elders. So it should be up to date. Pro presenter. Unfortunately, we didn't get the discount for pro presenter. We didn't have we didn't meet the requirements that they had, and they moved the ball the goalposts a little bit for us, but unfortunately we weren't able to get that. WhatsApp group will be good. Is there a cost to using the media center? No, there isn't actually. You want to come and record your content here, it's a resource for you. This is here. We're not charging our churches for it. If you want to make a donation of a packet of biscuits to the team, I'm sure Caleb would welcome that. But there's no other cost other than that. And I think that is, how long has the media center been around for? Well, yeah, great question. So how long is it? It's actually 2 houses converted into this media center, and this has been going on for quite a few years, even before COVID, and then everything stopped with COVID, etc., etc. But next door to that, Harbour Bell, the church owns four properties, right? One of them is considered like a guest house, visiting speakers, that sort of thing, stay there when they're in Birmingham, as opposed to going to a hotel to save costs. The next house has been turned into 3 1-bedroom apartments, and then the next 2 houses have been converted into the media center. And really, that's part of our 2024 strategy of rolling this place out and really becoming a usable space for our members. That's a synopsis of this place. But folks, I think that is, oh no, we got 2 more questions. Hey, Kevin and Lorraine, last 2 questions and then we're calling it a day.
I noticed you mentioned about Pro Presenter now and funding as well. And God is good, and we know that. I don't know if anybody knows about free worship. Free worship I found on YouTube, and it's got the same format is exactly like Pro Presenter. It's got all the Adventist hymns in there. It's got all the Bibles in there, loads of Adventist images and everything. It's just phenomenal for our church anyway. So if you haven't got Pro Presenter, I would suggest you use Free Worship, because you just download it. There's a YouTube video, shows you exactly how to download it, and it does our church brilliantly. Sorry? It's on both. You can use it on both, but it's absolutely phenomenal for us. It's got all the songs in there and the images format. So I will put the link in now, and then you guys can, if you need it. For churches that are really small and can't afford it, it does us really well. So I'll put that in now.
Fantastic. Thank you, Laurie. I think somebody also asked about OBS. That's also another free open source software available on both Mac and Windows, specifically for streaming, right? So it's a really, really cool tool. And Kevin, last but not least.
For me, it was just a suggestion more so, because I know God has been good, particularly to some of the churches that we have. So if you have been blessed to upgrade your equipment, I would say get in touch with Joe. If you want to offload some of your previous equipments, I know there are many churches like where I am that could use something. Because rather than have our equipment expire while trying to make them useful, it will be appreciated for anyone who's been blessed to upgrade, to just bless others in the process.
Great suggestion. Thank you, Kevin. All right, folks. And on that note, we'll bring today's workshop to an end. I've really enjoyed this. I've really enjoyed it. Seeing that there was over 100 people that have registered, I know people have come and gone. Some of us wear multiple hats. And so we come and join communications, and then we dip off for clerk for an hour or whatever it may be, children's ministries. But it's really wonderful to see so many people that have taken the time this morning. I found the workshops really interesting, and I'm so grateful to Pastor Davis joining us from the BUC to share on getting started within the role, talking about crisis communications. How do we manage those situations? Pastor, really appreciate you being here. Your support from the union is felt and it's recognized. Thank you. Sandra, who's joined us all the way from the US. I think I shared right at the beginning, she's 5 hours behind. And so her day has started really early today, really early. And she shared with a group of us on Friday evening that she had a busy day at church on Sabbath with a husband who's also a pastor, and it's been a long weekend for her. But we appreciate her expertise. We appreciate her being here. She works for the local church for her conference. She works for the general conference as well. And so Sandra, we're really grateful for this. So thank you very much for taking the time to be here with us. And to Caleb and Bethany, I got to thank them as well. Right? What do you think? Yeah, have we enjoyed our time in their presentations? I have. Guys, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'll see you nice and early in the office tomorrow. And no excuses for being late. But seriously, thank you very much, guys. It's really much appreciated. I really enjoyed this. Thank you for everybody else, and above all, we thank our Savior, our King, and our friend, don't we? For all that He does for us, and for giving us the opportunity to minister in His churches. And so I pray and encourage you to continue to be faithful in the calling that God has placed upon you in your church, whether you're serving for a year or 2 years, you've just started, or you've been in this role for 10 years. May you continue to be faithful to the calling that God has given you. Amen, everybody.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Joe.
Pastor Davis, are you happy to close us in prayer this afternoon, please?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Let us bow for prayer. Our gracious and loving Father, we're grateful for all the blessings bestowed and the opportunity to study. Lord, we thank you for the presentations, and we pray that they will enrich our ministries in our various territories. We pray, Lord, that as we continue to work in our local territories, all the recipients will experience you in a new way, And Lord, we also pray that you provide for those who are asking for resources. And we know you have ways to provide for us. And we continue to depend on you. Continue to lead us in our various local churches. We thank you and pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thanks, everybody. God bless. Enjoy the rest of your days.
Amen.
Take care,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
you.
Pastor, I sent you a message
Amen.
in
Thank
your
you.
direct message. Kindly check it.
Okay. Kolawole, I
Yes.
will do that. Got it. I see it. Thank you.
Okay.
I think those who are left behind are the diehards. Nobody wants to leave. Bethany, I'll pick up. I'll reach out to you soon, and Caleb. I'm gonna sort out Pastor David. He's just in the meeting room, and enjoy the rest of your days. All right. Catch you guys later.
Recording stopped.